Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Hope you had a great weekend. Welcome to a Monday edition of Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Big weekend on the local sports scene, and we still got series in the conference finals going in both the National Hockey League and the NBA. The World Championships wrapped up, and the Bombers hit the field for their first preseason action of the year. We'll get to all of it over the next couple hours here on WST. Great to have you all with us. Hope you spent quite a bit of time outside enjoying, well, the beautiful weather. Windy as hell, but listen, I don't think we're going to complain if we're getting 30 degrees before June even begins around here in Winnipeg. So it warmed up, and we'll try and keep it warmed up for the next couple hours here on WST. Great to have you all with us. If you're just finding our channel for the first time, welcome aboard. Hit that red subscribe button on YouTube and join us Monday to Friday at 1 o'clock Central for the live show. And you can always get Winnipeg Sports Talk right around 3:30 in the afternoon, just in time for your drive home on your favorite podcasting platform. Go wherever you get your pods, type in Winnipeg Sports Talk and subscribe there as well. Just before we bring in Michael Remis, have to thank the sponsors that make this show happen each and every day. Princess Auto, Coolbet Canada, Assiniboia Downs, who are back in action tonight. We'll get to our picks later on today. The Winnipeg Gold Eyes, Modern Man Barbershop, Aquatech, Manitoba Battery, Canadian Club, Nick and Nikki DQ Group, F Apparel, Wallace & Wallace, Vita Health Fresh Market, Consolidated Supply, Royal Sports, Boston Pizza, Little Brown Jug, Aikens Lake, and our friends over at Breezy Bend Golf and Country Club. Michael Remis, what is up? How was your weekend?
It was great. It was hot yesterday. And I'm not going to complain. I'm not going to be one of those guys who says it was too hot, because you had to be inside a little, like with some air conditioning. But yeah, it was pretty good. I was on a bit of a high, to be honest, all Sunday from the Sea Bears game that we went to on Saturday. What an atmosphere. So it was a great weekend for that, for sure.
Yeah, you know what? Like right off the bat, congratulations go out to David Asper, Coach Mike Taylor, and the beast from River East himself, Chad Posthumus, and the rest of the Winnipeg Sea Bears for, we can only be described as an incredibly successful start to the rebirth of pro hoops here in Manitoba. We were both there. The atmosphere was absolutely incredible. A sold-out lower bowl of the Canada Life Centre, smashing the CEBL's attendance record in Winnipeg's first game, and a hell of a game. I mean, a great game day atmosphere, a great game day production. Although I'm sure, with it being the first one, I'm sure there's probably some things that we wouldn't have even noticed that happened or didn't happen. It was one funny thing where the tip-off went, and the very first shot that the Sea Bears put up, the air cannons or whatever went behind the net, which was a little funny. But I mean, overall, there's so much that goes into starting a new endeavor in anything, and in pro sports, you've only got one chance to make that first impression. And I can speak for myself, and I think most of the people that were there on Saturday night, that first impression was damn good. And the home team won. Got a little hairy there at the end with the Vancouver Bandits rally at the end of the game. But Remo couldn't have ended much better. The hometown guy, the first ever member of the Sea Bears, Chad Posthumus, putting back the rebound for the winning points. And the celebrations began there. I mean, just overall, an absolute home run for Winnipeg Sea Bears in their first game.
Absolutely. The sold out lower bowl, as you said. We hadn't had basketball here, like pro, since the Cyclone. And I remember going to Thunder games as well, but there was definitely a lot of excitement for ball. The thing that blew me away, the merch lines were out of control long. They have some great merchandise available that people are excited to wear. I thought the mood at the game was like a party atmosphere with music going on, and places to sit and stand in the end zones. thought it was a great time, and I hope more people go to other games. That was the first game, so it was sold out, and we'll see what happens going forward. But this couldn't have been a better start, and with the ending, they do have the Elam ending, which is a target score. So basically, with 4 minutes left in the fourth quarter, they add 9 to the leading team's score, and whoever gets to that target score first wins. So the Sea Bears had a huge lead and almost blew it at the end, but it was Chad Posthumus when they needed one basket to get to that target score. So they're always going to have these exciting finishes where that's a walk-off. So he put home the rebound, and everyone was going nuts. It was awesome. What an atmosphere, Huss. Great. It was great.
So I was sitting, and again, thanks again to the Sea Bears for the excellent media seating. I was sitting right beside Ryan Reyes from the Filipino Journal, who was there. The dude from Winnipeg Wilden, who they've done a great job at covering it. If you're following them on Instagram, if you're not, you should be. Lots of entertaining stuff on that account. And then Mike Sawatsky and Scott Billick. But I happened to be sitting right next to an older gentleman from Southern Ontario who was, I believe, the head referee for the league. And he was there kind of on behalf of the league, just making sure that all of our refs, scorers were familiar with some of the intricacies of the league. First of all, the first target score ending that we've seen here in Winnipeg, as well as, and this is an interesting kind of comparison to the Canadian Football League. I mean, there is a ratio. You always have to have 2 Canadian players on the court. So they were monitoring that. But he was the chatty dude, and he was filling me in on everything. Explain how the target score works. First whistle, as you mentioned, after the 4 minute, they look at the score. They'll add 9 points to the team that is leading. And in this case, I think it was like 80 to 68 at that point. So 89 was the number that, whoever got there first won the game. And it does 2 things. First of all, you don't have all that fouling that often happens at the end of the games. And you also didn't have anyone trying to run the clock out. It's about getting to that point and getting off the court. And it did get a little hairy there at the end, Remo, because Vancouver, bottom line is Winnipeg had a tough time hitting a basket for about the first 2 minutes afterwards, and it got close. But there was the big guy afterwards. So I got a nice little a primer in all things CEBL from one of the officials. But everyone in attendance got a chance to witness a real thrilling finish. And overall, I mean, just a great production. I had a chance to talk to David Asper just quickly afterwards, and he was in great spirits. I don't think that even the most optimistic people in the organization could have imagined a rebirth of pro hoops that went as well as it did on Saturday. And I'll tell you what, congratulations to Winnipeg. You have raised the bar for CEBL crowds. I got to tell you, Reem, it's a short season. It only goes for a couple months, but I have a feeling that Canada Life Centre is going to be rocking for these Sea Bears games the rest of the way out this year. Yeah,
I really like how they're doing this, starting small. I think it's 20 games total, so 10 home games, and they're all evenings, and the next home game is June 12 here. The next game is on Thursday, and if you do want to watch it, they are on TSN Plus. Their streaming service. You have to log in with your cable provider, or you can subscribe separately. My preferred method is Fire Stick. I don't know what everyone else uses, but there's a million different things, and I'm looking forward to seeing how this goes. People were excited. I did enjoy the fireworks shooting out of the basket and all that stuff. They had the cheerleading team at the halftime show. Felt like a big league game there at the Canada Life Centre. So I've heard about CEBL for a couple years, and it's finally here, and I think this was an exciting thing for Winnipeg sports on the weekend. I do want to give a shout out to Huss. Look at your seats for everyone on YouTube. This is Hustler.
There's the guy I was talking about right beside me.
Oh, this guy? Oh yeah.
Yes, the head ref guy. You can see in front on the bottom right, Christian O'Mell from OB and Dave Crook doing the broadcast for it. Oh. There's Joey Slattery behind them, who was running around doing sideline work. And over on the far left, which you can't hear, I guess it was John Goddess, but he and our pal Darrin Bauming are going to be doing PA work at the games this year. And Bauming was finishing up Bonfire post game after the Bomber game and got there a little later on in the game. But we'll talk to him about this as well as the Winnipeg Blue Bombers a little later on. As much as the team was ready to go, I gave a shout out to the fans for the way that they brought it, Remo. One in particular fan deserves some dap. And I'm not sure what the young man's name was, but the first ever in-game promo done by the Sea Bears was a shot from just inside center court off of, I guess, a Flair Airlines logo on the court. And the guy just put it up and drained it. I think he won 2 tickets anywhere Flair flies, and then had the opportunity to turn around on a shot that was more than half court on the other side and banged it off the rim. But that was an awesome moment as well, on a night of great memories for the rebirth of the of hoops here in the city.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say it was the other in-game promo where the guy goes to shoot a basket in like the arcade-style game, and instead of going to take a shot, he got down on one knee and proposed to his girlfriend. So we had at the first game, we even had a proposal on the Jumbotron, and she did say yes. So
he didn't throw up a brick on that one. That would have been would have been a lot worse than anything else if he had missed on that.
No, and so yeah, that was great. Here's another. I took a couple pictures there, Huss. Here we are. You can walk around there. We got a nice picture before the second.
All professional WST shirts.
Yeah. We're looking good.
Spreading the word
in our polos and our media passes. So that was fun. I'm looking forward to seeing how this turns out, but in the middle of end of May, some nice hoops. It was great. Loved it. Looking forward. I'll go to another game for sure.
Yeah, highly recommended. And hey, here's a quick Why Not question of the day for all of you. Who was at the game? And if you were at the game, would love to get your thoughts. Let us know in the chat about what your thoughts. Blue Cat Animation saying, Huss, where's your Bombers gear? Well, it's still the preseason. Don't worry. There'll be plenty of Bombers gear coming up, even later on this week. First home game is on Friday. Today I've got the Howard Chuck Strong shirt. So
I don't wear
There's
gear.
always time for Howard Chuck Strong here on Winnipeg Sports Talk.
I try to seem like an impartial Big J journo on this show, Huss. Yeah. I don't wear any gear. No gear for me.
Yeah, it's like, am I supposed to laugh at that? Or
I don't want to ruin my journalistic integrity by wearing any team apparel. Come on.
Hey, one other thing quickly on the game. It was a perfect ending with Chad Posthumus, the hometown guy, the first ever player signed to the team, getting the putback for the win. And the big guy was in foul trouble throughout the second half. He picked up, the third and fourth fouls, to be honest, were a little chintzy. I'm no expert, though. He was not pleased. But he had to stay off the court, which meant that other Canadians were playing a little bit more. And the guy that stood out to me was Simon Hildebrand, the Bison star, who was the Rookie of the Year in U Sports this year. He was phenomenal. He had some massive, massive hoops in the second half. And, the 2 local guys on the squad were big, big parts of that win. I think that's only going to be even better. And it's great to see that Sean Moranin is part of the larger squad. I don't think he was on the active 12-man roster, but you've got some U of W flavor. You've got some U of M flavor on the club. And most important, they did win 1-0. And the one other thing that I will say, Reem, and I'm sure you will agree, our city is a lot different than it was 20, 25 years ago. The demographics have changed. We've got a far larger Filipino community, East Indian community. I'll say this, just even looking at the lines to go into the arena on Saturday night, this was a very different looking crowd than maybe some of the traditional hockey crowds that we've seen before. And even before tip-off, just seeing all the people that this team had interest in enough to come out to the first game, I think the future for this team is incredibly bright because, we know what a big sport basketball is internationally. And I know Canada has always been a hockey country, and it will be. But there's a lot of support for other sports like soccer and basketball. And man, like to be playing at Canada Life Center immediately makes it feel, I think, probably a lot more big league than maybe some of the other places in the league that are playing at smaller venues. And the fans came out, and credit to the Sea Bears for really connecting with a number of the other communities in this city. And I'll tell you what, it's a great thing to see. It was just, I mean, everything about that night, I'm sure from a Sea Bears perspective, was perfect. So congratulations to all of them. And we got to wait a little bit, a couple weeks before the next home game. But I'll tell you what, I think most of the people that were there on Saturday night are going to make a point of getting back sometime this season to see the new squad.
I think so, Huss. It was fun, and I'm, again, looking forward to following how this does throughout the season. And I agree, it was a great atmosphere at the game, and hopefully it continues, Huss. So I remember, Thunder did some great merch for them, and Sea Bears continuing it with the teal. I love that, and again, the merch lines there was crazy.
I have not seen anything like that. I got in through gate 4, which is basically Hargrave and Portage, and walked in that door, and there was a merch tent or merch booth or whatever. It was basically outside the Bud Lounge in that north end, and the line went all the way around past gate 4. There was hundreds of people in line, and it didn't stop throughout the game, and it didn't stop after the game on that area at the end. So anyways, highly recommend. Congrats to the Sea Bears on game number 1, and a great night at Canada Life Center. Of course, that was following the first Blue Bomber preseason action of the year, Reem, and we'll get into that a little bit more with Jeff Hamilton and Darrin Bauming a little later on, but Bombers still got it done. There hasn't been many big stories so far throughout Blue Bomber training camp other than let's get on with it. Let's get to game number 1 of the season and see this team try to get back to the Grey Cup and win it this year. But we did get a chance to see a little more of the third quarterbacks. And I'll tell you what, the defense, the one side of things that, if there was some concern, run defense, and without Jackson Jeffcoat out there and Casey Sales gone, that defensive line may be a little bit of a concern, but quite clear that the Winnipeg Blue Bombers are still the team to beat in the West and the CFL after that first game. Yeah,
and the Elks still can't win at home, and I think the thing everyone was talking about is this quarterback, Tyrell Pigrom, has 2 touchdowns, including a long one. He's battling for the number 3 role, and he's the player that impressed, and that is what we're talking about. He did score the Bombers' trademark 1-yard touchdown, but also had the one. Someone's got to go and punch it in. No Dakota Prukop this year.
Yeah, who's Sean McGuire of 2023?
Although it is funny, I was flipping back between the Bomber preseason game on CFL Preseason Live on their website, and McLeod Bethel Thompson was in action on Fox on the US. FL, and he was playing pretty well. But yeah, Pigrom had the 1-yard run and also a 45 yard run, which was the go-ahead touchdown for the Bombers.
That was the one I saw.
Yeah.
And I mean, this dude has some jets. Like the minute he was 3-4 yards past the line of scrimmage, he looked like a running back or like a skill position player, not a quarterback. So we'll talk to Hammer and Bauming about that. But and again, I try not to overreact or take too much from a preseason game. But I mean, when you're with a bunch of other QBs and you've got limited opportunities with live bullets to show what you can do, Pigrom, I don't think could have done much more to show that he will be the guy to get that short yardage work and earn a roster spot.
Yeah, and we were also the other quarterback. We're talking about Zach Caleros. Didn't play last year in the preseason, but he did get in. 5 completed passes on 8 attempts, 93 yards, and a touchdown to who? New guy or new old guy? Kenny Lawler. A 67 yard TD in the first quarter. So Caleros and Lawler really picking up where they left off. And Drew Brown came in as well. He was 3 of 5, 35 yards. Go to the Winnipeg Sun for putting these. It was Ted writing this because I go to the CFL website. No stats for the game. Like, come on, CFL. What are we doing here? So that's what we have for CFL.
We're not there yet.
We're not there. barely get live stats for the regular season games. I mean, we're trying to talk about this here. But yeah, but that's the Bombers preseason. I know Darrin and Jeff kept a closer eye than us, so they'll give us some more insight as well.
We'll get to all of that. And I see Travis in chat saying Winnipeg is a great sports city. Absolutely. Goldeyes games were great too. I made it to the ballpark as well. Man, that wind, the wind was blowing out this weekend. It was a good day to just get your bat on the ball because it might have ended up in the Red River. But the Fish with a big win yesterday end up winning 2 of 3 against the Canaries on the weekend. I believe, 2 of 3, and then hit the road now for finishing up that first homestand. Be away this week and then back at home the following week. We'll fill you in on that a little bit later on. We took a little bit to talk about the hockey because Bill Lindsay is going to be coming up and joining us right away. And we're not burying the lead. Canada is the world champions after winning the World Hockey Championship overseas in Finland. But the biggest story, to be honest, was Latvia winning the bronze medal. And if you have checked out online the party that is going on in Latvia right now after winning their first ever medal, it is next level. And the Latvian fans, year after year, are always the stars of the show at the World Hockey Championships. And to have this sort of a performance with the stunning upsets that they had with the Swedes, and then the Americans, they beat a lot of top teams throughout that run. And listen, it's just great to see some other countries get rewarded, get some results, especially for an event that means so much to them. I mean, I know Canadians and Americans don't pay much attention to this tournament, unfortunately, because of course it's going on at the same time as the Stanley Cup playoffs. There's a picture right now in Riga, Latvia, and the prime minister or president or whatever they have over there gave a full national day off after Latvia's win. We don't get political on this show very often, but Canada won the gold. Where was our day off today, Reem?
Yeah, exactly. We had ours yesterday or last Monday, I guess. But yeah, I love the Sunday with the Sunday of what the Memorial Day weekend is usually when the World Championship gold medal is. Canada winning. Nice to see Milan Lucic, Tyler Toffoli, a couple guys. Winnipeg's Cody Glass on there. How about Adam Fantilli? He's going to go number 2 in the draft, winning the World Junior and the World Championship.
How about that goal he scored?
Yeah, I mean, man, if we ever got, Anaheim got number 2. I mean, they're still getting a quality player, even if they lost out on Connor Bedard. The one thing for me, you got to feel for Team USA. Had this incredible run in the round robin. When undefeated.
They were undefeated heading into the semis.
And you lose to Germany, because I thought we were on a collision course for a Canada-USA final. We were not. And then you lose the bronze medal game to Latvia. And, we were keeping an eye on Dylan Sandberg, had an overtime winner, was playing top pair for USA. That's the Winnipeg Jets defenseman, Dylan Sandberg. And USA, big disappointment for them. I think they've had a really strong team there. To not have a medal after that kind of round robin, I think that's got to be a big disappointment for them. But hey, then we wouldn't get Latvia. And how about their goalies in the Canucks organization? He was tournament MVP. That was the number one story for sure.
Yeah, and again, I always have a tough time pronouncing the Latvians' names until unless it's something like Arturs Urbe, which is a little bit easier. But yeah, just an amazing scene today in Latvia after their bronze medal, and shout out to the Canadians who got the job done. We are going to talk Stanley Cup final in just a couple minutes. Before we do that, shout out to everyone that popped by Modern Man Plessis for their grand opening event yesterday. Raised some great money for Prairie Wildlife Rehab Center, and most importantly, gave out some great cuts. Now, with the grand opening of Plessis and Pembina behind us, Modern Man Barbershops have 8 locations in Winnipeg to take care of you, specializing in haircuts, beard shaping, shaves, color services, and more. Book your look and make an appointment via modernmanbarber.com, and you can follow them on Instagram at modernmanbarbershops. Well, it's still steamy outside, folks. Sure, you've been thinking about getting in the water on the weekend? Make 2023 the year you take the plunge with Aquatech. Visit aqua-tech.ca to design your own custom pool. And of course, whole home renovations start with Aquatech as well, with thousands of renos as their foundation. Let them upgrade any space in your home. Aquatech is ready to make your reno dreams a reality. Learn more about design, pricing, and financing options at aqua-tech.ca. Well, what a run it's been at Manitoba Battery for the last few weeks. I mean, with their big 10th birthday anniversary sale on, with the best prices on everything that you need right now. Deep cycle batteries at 105, 6-volt and 8-volt golf cart batteries on sale. And of course, everything that you need for your dirt bike and ATV, lawnmower, and more. Donnie and the gang at Manitoba Battery have it, and compare with any of the big box stores. And not only will you not have to wait in line, but you'll pay $30 to $50 less per battery. Take advantage of the most convenient service as well. And they'll deliver it to you anywhere in the city with any purchase of $60 or more for free. Find out more at manitobabattery.com or pop down and see them at 1026 Logan Avenue. And, well, we're just waiting to see who the Florida Panthers are playing in the Stanley Cup final. But a big cheers to all the teams that are still alive, from Canadian Club, Canada's favorite Canadian whiskey, and of course the official spirit of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers and WST. 4 days, folks, till be gathering around the rum hut, grabbing a CC or a Canadian Club and ginger ale in cans. If you can't wait till Friday at IG Field, pick it up at your local Manitoba liquor marts or beer vendor. Of course, Canadian Club, the official spirit of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. All right, this is going to be real fun. We got Game 6 tonight between the Vegas Golden Knights and the Dallas Stars. And meanwhile, the Florida Panthers are just kicking back, waiting to see who they play in the Stanley Cup final. And the Panthers and NHL Network analyst Bill Lindsay, former Panther, joins us now. Bill, thanks so much for doing this. How are you?
I'm doing good this afternoon. Everything good there?
Everything's great. We got some weather that might not quite be Florida-like, but for Winnipeg at this point, everything's great. I mean, listen, the playoffs were a little shorter for the Winnipeg Jets than people around here would have liked, but the Panthers are showing
I know the feeling.
The Panthers are showing that it doesn't matter what happened in the 82-game regular season. Magical things can happen in the Stanley Cup playoffs, and really, it seems like ever since they got down 3-1 to the Boston Bruins, they have been on a magic carpet ride all the way to the Cup final, Bill. I mean, you've covered this team for a long time, a former player. What's it been like around this team, watching win after win, upset after upset, and now 4 wins away from getting Paul Maurice's Stanley Cup ring?
Phenomenal to see the juice come back down here to South Florida. I was here in the early 90s. We built it up. Took a long time to get back to this scenario, but you have made the playoffs 4 straight years, won the President's Trophy last year. You built the trust back in the fan base somewhat, and you're able to get back, scrape and claw into the playoffs this year. You find a way in. This team, even though they were the last seed, they were banged up at the start of the season. The flu bug around Christmas time. Paul Maurice, the coach, was frustrated trying to implement this new system. But after January 1st, and especially after the All-Star break, their records stacked up with everyone in the East outside of Boston. So maybe it comes somewhat as a surprise, but to see the way they played down the stretch, you could see that they finally had an identity. Hard forechecking. Going to be really tough to play against. They were much better through the neutral zone. Paul Maurice was getting everything intact. The only question remained, could they get in the playoffs? And they did. You mentioned the Boston series. Boston was historically good, and they were that good. They've been the toughest opponent for the Panthers. You've won 11 of 12 games now against Boston, Toronto, and Carolina. If you did that during the regular season, people would think, wow, that's crazy. They've been able to do it here during the playoffs. So just watching it all, it's like a little snowball that's just gotten bigger and bigger and better and just keeps growing in the right direction.
Bill, the snowball almost didn't get going in Game 5 of round number 1. And I was sitting here watching it. There's 15 seconds left in the game. It's 3-3. The puck is down in the Boston end. And Brandon Montour, who has been so incredible, kind of mishandles the puck, and all of a sudden it's 6-5-4, and Brad Marchand, of all people, is on a breakaway. In a lot of other scenarios, that puck goes in, the Bruins win 4-1, but Bob, who was not even a surefire guy to start that game, kicks the leg out, makes the save, keeps them alive. They win in overtime, and the rest is history. What were you thinking when that play happened? And what can you say about Bob since that save was made and where he's at right now?
My heart dropped when I saw Marchand on a breakaway and coming down. That's you're saving the season. Bobrovsky,
literally.
Literally. And what can you say about Bobrovsky? Interesting talk with the goaltending coach, Rob Tallis. And Alex Lyon was able to get this team in the playoffs. But the team was playing good in front of them. Same thing with Bobrovsky, the systems. And that's what allowed Alex Lyon to kind of go on that run. But it's kind of like in poker where you have a hot hand. They knew that they were going to ride Alex Lyon to some point, but he's a career minor leaguer. He's putting together this good stretch. They were just going to see how far they could stretch it out, how far they could go with it. They knew that they were going to go to Bobrovsky at some point. Bobrovsky handled it well, puts in his work ethic in practice. It can't be denied. When he was called, he was ready. But so Alex Lyon, they rode that hand as far as possible, in my opinion. The coaching staff did a tremendous job saying, okay, we're cashing in the chips on that one. We're taking all our money. We've exhausted it. Now we're going to go to Bobrovsky and see what he can do. And it's on another level. Alex Lyon, to all his credit, is one heck of a goaltender, did fabulous things, but his ceiling is nowhere near the ceiling of Bobrovsky. And you can see it in these playoffs once he gets dialed in, almost unbeatable down low. And large part of it is just the ups and downs, but mentally he's engaged along with this whole team. What happens in the playoffs is you've got to be able to take your game from here to here. You've got to be able to elevate it. If you do that, then you're going to have a chance. And it's happened across the board. You could go up and down that lineup and say, yeah, that player's playing better than they did in the regular season. And Bobrovsky is no bigger example than that. You know that he has that ability because he's won 2 Vezina trophies. It's been a struggle here, but he's pieced it all together in these playoffs.
Well, I mean, timing is everything. I mean, this is still a $10 million goaltender that lost his starting job to a career minor leaguer, but you always know you're going to get that other chance. And to me, that save, and then the way he played an OT before they won Game 5 and were able to get it to Game 6, it seemed like a lot of things changed right around that. Now, we could talk about Sergei Bobrovsky for a long time. The other guy that has been... Well, I mean, you tell us about the impact of Matthew Tkachuk, not just in this playoffs, but really since he came in game number 1 of this season after the haul that the Panthers gave up to acquire the former Flames star.
Well, he has a seat at the Hart Trophy table. McDavid's going to win it, but he's earned that right to sit there with the top 3. They don't get in the playoffs without Tkachuk, and he changed the identity of this team. He's loud, he's boisterous, and sometimes I use the word cockiness, but cockiness to me is when you don't have the game to back it up. With Matthew Tkachuk, it's swagger and self-confidence and belief. And if you've been around Boston people, they're loud. They're just loud in general. They're outspoken. And so Matthew Tkachuk, he brings that. He just oozes personality. And the best way to describe him as a player is that he's just got a fourth-line mentality. And he's got first-line skill. If he didn't have that skill, he'd be the best fourth-line player in the NHL. Just getting in your face. He drags everyone into the fight. Doesn't matter what's going on in the hockey game. He's gonna make an impact and be in clutch at the right time. He's rewriting Panther history, but also NHL history with what he's doing in these playoffs. Jonathan Huberdeau did a lot of fantastic things for this franchise. But Matthew Tkachuk's a unicorn in the NHL. You try and find another player, another example, they're hard to come by. There's maybe 1 or 2 or 3 more that you could say, okay, that player reminds me of a Matthew Tkachuk. And he went from 100 points in Calgary switched over, and many thought maybe Lindholm, Gaudreau, that was the best line. Could he replicate that in Florida? He's played on the first line with different line mates, second line. Doesn't matter. He just continues to produce. And it's all around that blue paint, just getting his nose dirty. He's changed this franchise single-handedly.
Yeah, and it speaks to Bill Zito. Speaking of being finalist for a trophy, he's finalist for the general manager of the year because of the stones it took to swing as big as he did for that acquisition of Tkachuk. But that wasn't the only thing they did in the offseason. Of course, they went and hired Paul Maurice, who we're very familiar with here in Winnipeg. Mm-hmm. It wasn't smooth sailing the entire year. At times the team was well out of a playoff spot. I mean, if all you need to do is fire up a social media app, and Panthers fans were irate about what was going on. I mean, you've been there before. You follow the team every day. What was the MO of Maurice coming in to take over this team that had won the President's Trophy? It seemed like it was less about the regular season and more about teaching this team the things that they needed to do to eventually be successful in the playoffs. And it came right down to the wire, but it seems a lot of that fruit of the work that they've done is now showing off when it really counts, and that's the Stanley Cup playoffs.
It is, and he came in here with a job and a mandate to try and change this team into a playoff hockey during the regular season. And I talked to him at the start of the year, the adjustments he wanted to make through the neutral zone and being a heavy forecheck team, trying to wear teams down. They were high octane off the rush last year. Dump in rates last year, they were last in the NHL at dumping the puck in. They carried the puck in, tried to make plays off the rush. This year, dump out and dump in rates. Dumping out, they were second. They were first in dump in rate. So you talk about changing the identity. It was a complete overhaul. I talked to Maurice, and he was frustrated trying to get there, trying to bring this team to that point. But once this team got healthy, you could see that identity take shape. And it was it going to be too little, too late? They grinded and fought and just managed to claw for it. And Paul Maurice does deserve credit. It's about those 6 inches that, I don't know if you've ever seen Any Given Sunday, but the Al Pacino speech, it's applicable with this team. Inch by inch, we're going to do this. We're going to crawl. We're either going to die together or live together or die as an individual. Mm-hmm. And they have fought for that inch. They have scratched for it. And once you do that, you become a team. And they've recognized that. And that's kind of sums it up for Paul Maurice right from the start of the year, scratching and crawling for just those 6 inches right in front of your nose.
Bill Lindsay is with us, NHL and Panthers analyst, discussing the upcoming Stanley Cup final between the Panthers and either the Dallas Stars or the Vegas Golden Knights. It's funny that you mentioned that quote because, and I know you were talking with some of those stats who are a good friend of ours and your colleague, Mike Kelly at the NHL Network, he's talked about Maurice for years here with us on our program, and now seeing the job that he's doing, talking about some of those changes of what they've worked on and the purpose of it. But for all the analytics and the stats and what we have numbers for right now, Bill, I'm still waiting for an analytic number that talks about simply winning one-on-one battles. Because if you honestly, when you look at the difference between the Panthers and the Leafs, and even in this last round against Carolina, albeit incredibly tight. I mean, that I kind of agree with Rod Brindamore. That wasn't your run-of-the-mill 4-0 sweep.
No.
The tenacity and ferociousness of which the Florida Panthers play in those one-on-one puck battles, to me, has frankly been the difference. Because all these teams are good, all these teams that can score. It literally does come down to a test of will at times, and it seemed like the will in the Florida Panthers has been just a step above some of their opponents so far.
At this time of year, guts, heart, cojones, all those things, that's what you need. And that's what this Panther team has been able to do. And the best way to describe it, we went to the finals in '96, first time 27 years. What you have to do at this time of year, that everyone has to work so hard that your fear of failure, not for yourself, but for the guy next to you, is so extreme. You're not worried about letting yourself down. that guy sitting next to you is working so hard that if I don't work to that level and I let that guy down, man, I'm not going to go home disappointed about the way I played. I'm going to go home and just feel awful about letting my teammate down. And so that goes around the dressing room, and everyone starts doing that. Is just the fear of failure for the guy beside you, and that you're going to work so hard and be so determined. And what also comes out of that is trust. So now I can trust the guy sitting next to me. His effort level, there might be mistakes, but I'm not going to have to question his effort level. It's going to be there. And up and down the roster you go, everyone's going to bring that same sort of effort, that same sort of mentality. And that's when you become a team. That's when you become a group, and it's solidified. And that's to you this time of year. You talked about the will. Will beats skill any time of the day. But when you have skill combined with it and will, that's what's going to put you over the top. Because without that will, you can have all the skill in the world. Toronto Maple Leafs, I don't care. It's the will, the drive, the intestinal fortitude at this time of the year that's going to push you and hopefully make you a Stanley Cup champion.
Bill, Alec Barkov is still the captain of this club. But in a lot of ways, it seems like Matthew Tkachuk is the heartbeat. I mean, the on-ice leader. What's the relationship between those two guys? And has Tkachuk's arrival and just everything that he brings into a room, has it actually made Barkov's job maybe a little bit easier on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, he's the captain, and Matthew Tkachuk, he's there. He's forefront and center. Alexander Barkov is a quiet leader. Goes on. There's been many quiet leaders around the NHL. You go back to Joe Sakic. I played with Joe in Quebec. Very quiet, very unassuming, but went about his business.
Patrice Bergeron, perfect example.
Steve Yzerman was the same way when he started out in the league. Barkov is going to lead, but he's going to lead by the way that he plays on the ice. He plays a 200-foot game. He has the ability to control at both ends of the rink. Tkachuk can be out there. He can be the voice sometimes in the dressing room if he needs to get on to some people. So it's kind of a shared leadership duty, and it's a perfect 1-2 combination. You got one guy that just unassumingly just goes about his business almost to perfection every night with the details of the game. When you watch Barkov and the details at both ends of the rink, it's impeccable. It's spot on. He doesn't cheat the game. And because of that, he gets rewarded at the offensive end. And then you have Tkachuk that's out there that's kind of everywhere, just flailing away bodies. He might make mistakes, but ends up scoring critical goals. So the leadership, it has made it maybe easier on Barkov, but he does go about his business, does lead by example, does deserve to be the captain of this team. But having Matthew Tkachuk and a bigger voice to kind of take some of that pressure off Barkov, I believe, has helped Barkov.
Bill, obviously the last couple rounds, they've had a little bit of extra time off because of how quickly they've won the series after going the distance in round number 1. Will this be a benefit being off for as long as they will have been before the Saturday and playing game 1 of the Cup final? Or might it take a little bit longer to get into the series? They had that great start against Toronto. I think part of it was they were still on that high from Boston. Just interesting perspective on the time off before. At the same time, is there who do you think that they will be playing? Dallas has re-entered the chat, if you will.
Yeah, not quite sure. Vegas, it's only been done 4 times historically in the history of the game, so it still favors Vegas to get to a Cup final. Dallas, Jake Ottinger, don't rule them out. As far as rest, maybe you could make some arguments that you don't like it, but at this time of year, the one round that I wanted rest for, we went to Game 7 against Pittsburgh. I would have loved to have some days off to regroup and recalibrate for the Stanley Cup final, because it's a madhouse. Media, friends, family, everyone was calling you. All of a sudden, 2 days later, the puck's dropped, and your head's just swirling. You're like, wow, we're down 2-0 just like that to Colorado. And so you're able to heal some bumps and bruises. Maybe there's a bit of rust, but you'll take that, just getting all healed up. You're able to get your friends, your family, all the media stuff done, put aside. Now when it gets down, you travel out to Vegas or Dallas for game number 1. You reset, you put the phones down, social media, don't interact, tell your family that you're going to talk to them after the series. And now it's time to be laser focused. I would take rest any day of the week for the Stanley Cup final over a hectic 6 or 7 game series. That's just my personal opinion. Maybe you come out on a roll in those first couple of games if you do play hot, but the fatigue factor, the wear and the attrition that you have to put your body through at this time of the year is almost inhumane at times. Rest is important.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens in game number 1, but I think I'm with you. I mean, over the course of what should be a very tough, hard-fought Stanley Cup final, I think the rest will definitely benefit. Hey, before we go, we've talked a lot about, the players, the personalities right at the top, and Barkov and Tkachuk, and of course Paul Maurice, who's of great interest to people here in Winnipeg. But Brandon Montour, I mean, we've always thought of Aaron Ekblad as the guy back there, and we've got Gudas, who's a complete psycho, but everyone would want him on their team. But Brandon Montour, I mean, is this a coming out party for him, for people that maybe have not seen the Panthers as much all year long, or has he taken his game to a whole nother level over the course of this playoffs, Bill?
You want direct? Yeah, he's taking it to another level. But you want a direct comparison? Look right in Winnipeg. Josh Morrissey, identical. 35, 36 points was their career high, both over 70 points this year. He went from 17 and a half minutes to 24 and a half minutes. Paul Maurice gave him the keys to the car on the quarterbacking on the power play. I said, that's going to be your duties. He's all over the ice. He doesn't even consider himself a defenseman half the time if you ask him. He says, I'm just a rover. And he's got the skating ability to go with it. He's going to be all over the ice. And Mark Stahl, the defenseman, deserves a lot of credit, the veteran guy, just being back there, because he's in the right spot at the right time, allows Brandon to just go and do his thing. But you could see his confidence during the regular season with that added ice time and knowing that he's going to be the number 1 guy, quarterback in that power play, just soar into the stratosphere. And I can't think of a better comparison than Josh Morrissey in Winnipeg. When I watch the two players and the way they skate and the way they play to what they did for their respective teams this year, it's almost a direct, exact comparison. And you could see what happened with the Jets when they don't have Morrissey in the lineup. Same thing would happen to the Panthers without Montour.
Hey, Bill, this has been so much fun. Just on the way out, I know the Heat had a heartbreaking loss in game number 6, and they got game 7 tonight. But with the Heat and the Panthers, what's it been like around South Florida over the past month or so with all this playoff excitement for both the Hoops team and, of course, the Cats?
Yeah, it's been crazy, and there's a market for it. I know we get beat up down here as a fan base. We had to earn the trust back. It's South Florida. You got to win down here. It's just that the Miami Dolphins, they don't win, they don't draw. There was a lot of bad years, but it's coming back. And you talked about the Miami Heat. They've done a good job. Eric Spoelstra, their coach, has been so good for so long. They got Dade County down in Miami. We used to play down there. Now we're up in Broward County. So Dade County is Heat, and Broward County is all Panthers. So we got it all covered here down in South Florida, from Heat down there in Miami, up here in Fort Lauderdale, Boca Raton, Sunrise, that type of area. You can feel the buzz, the electricity throughout the city, Fort Lauderdale, Miami, wherever you go. They're talking about both clubs. It's been a long time coming, but man, it sure feels good for this fan base.
Well, it might be all about the Panthers as of tomorrow. We'll see what happens in this game 7 tonight between the Heat and Celtics. Bill, really appreciate you coming on with us. Enjoy what should be a great Stanley Cup final, and thanks so much for doing this.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
There's former Panther and NHL and Panthers analyst Bill Lindsay with the latest on the Eastern Conference champions as they get ready to await and find out who they're going to be playing in Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Final beginning on Saturday. All right, Hammer's up next. Looking forward to this. See how his weekend was. If he hit the waters, as always. Hey, folks, if you're looking for great prices on natural and organic supplements, beauty products, and groceries, you got to get down to one of 7 Vita Health Fresh Market stores or shop online at myvita.ca. With the warm weather here, you know what that means. It's barbecue season. Get down to Vita Health and stock up on some delicious Vita Market grass-fed bison and beef steaks. And the perfect thing to help you digest that red meat is Health First Primezyme Digestive Enzymes, which will help you with things like heartburn, gas, bloating, and abdominal pain after meals. That way you can enjoy that delicious food you're cooking that much more. They've got online delivery options as well. If you order at myvita.ca before 11 a.m., you can get the order that next day. Find out more. Pop in and see them at any of the 7 Winnipeg locations or shop online at myvita.ca. If you're in the market for a new fence or an overhead door, only one place to go, gang, and that is Wallace & Wallace, Winnipeg's fencing and overhead door specialist, serving residential and commercial customers since 1946. When it comes to fences, there's a reason why they own the market. They've got it all: vinyl, ornamental, welded wire, chain link, or wood. And if it's time to replace your garage door, as the Clopay dealer in Manitoba, they have Winnipeg's largest selection of overhead garage doors. Give them a call at 452-2700. The Wallace & Wallace team will arrange a time to come out and give you a free estimate. You can also visit them at wallacefences.com or pop into their showroom on Lawson Road off of Kenniston. How's the closet looking as we get into wedding season, fellas? If you need to up your menswear game, you need to head on down to F Apparel with custom suits beginning at just $400, along with chinos, golf pants, custom shirts, both tucked and untucked styles, and an incredible selection of menswear accessories. 15% discount for wedding parties if you and the fellas need to get looking good for the big day. And 2023 high school grads will get a free custom shirt and tie with the purchase of a new suit as well. Find out more in person at fapparel.com. Tell them the boys at Winnipeg Sports Talk sent you. You can also make an appointment at F, that's EPHapparel.com, and you can visit them down at 190 Smith Street. And well, Nick and Nicky DQ was working overtime this weekend with the heat around here. Blizzard machines on overdrive. And that's a good thing because all the brand new summer Blizzard flavors are here and going fast. No better time like the present to get a Blizzard into your life at Nick and Nicky DQ. Pop down and see them at either the DQ Northgate, DQ Polo Park, DQ St. Anne's, or DQ Niverville. All right, let's get the hammer in here to get this week really going. Jeff Hamilton from the Winnipeg Free Press joins us. Hammer, what is up? How was the weekend?
Hustler, great to be here. The weekend was amazing, man. I took full advantage of the weather, got out for a few different bike rides. I don't want to do free ads or anything like that. I know how that works in the corporate world you live in, but I went to the beer can for the first time ever. Actually went twice.
First time ever?
First time ever, yeah. And then I went twice. I capped it off on, I went Friday evening and then I went Sunday afternoon. And in between, I went to the Low Life Brewery, another great spot, twice. So I was doing the bike tours, and then today I had another bike ride. That's why I just got back. The weather, I just beat the rain, I think, but the weather kind of put me on a bit of allergy watch. But yeah, I know you want to get to my garage sale, and I'll just get it out of the way right now. I didn't go. The waters were not rippling this weekend for me.
Yeah, it sounded like some other waters were rippling for you, to be perfectly honest.
Part of it is look. I'm not going to bore your listeners, but it was a two-pronged situation. It was a late Friday evening, and then my sister had to bail because she had to volunteer for something, which was great. But me and my mom have agreed that perhaps we're not the best partners alone. 3 is the crowd we need to be successfully on the water. So that's all I can say at this point.
I got you. Well, you made some good choices with some stops on the weekend, and I'm sure you were just going, how the hell is this the first time I've been there before? I, in fact, have a meeting there a little later on today. We're working on an event there. I will tease that, but stay tuned for this.
Breaking news.
Let's, first of all, I guess you weren't at the Hoops game on Saturday night?
No, but I wasn't. But I saw all the hoopla. I saw, several friends on social media, their videos. Obviously, everything. I read the stories. I was noticed. Obviously, leading up to a lot of hype leading up to it with the as you mentioned off the top of your show, smashing the smashing the league record for attendance. I know that would have been bumping. So just, you know what, I think it's I'll just echo some of the things you said. I thought it was absolutely incredible that Winnipeg showed up for it. I think basketball is the kind of sport that can get a lot of different cultures and people involved and take full advantage of it. And it's great to see them start with such a successful game, then obviously the victory to boot. So, what an awesome debut.
Yeah, it was, as I said, this is, I think it was overdue. But in some ways, and I just think back to, I was young, I was working, selling tickets at the arena, the old arena, when the first incarnation of the Thunder was here. Mm-hmm. And, the Jets had bought 4 courtside seats, and most of those people were like, oh, I'm not into basketball or whatever. So I was the beneficiary of it. I got to go to tons of games sitting there, and it was awesome. It was so much fun. And the first couple games, I think it was 11,000 for the first Thunder game. Unfortunately, the league was a joke. And like every 2 or 3 weeks, another team in the league would fold. And it really impacted any positive momentum going forward for the team. And the next thing you knew, the league was done, and then it was the Cyclone, and they were moving to a smaller venue. Getting these games at Canada Life Centre was an absolute home run. It takes everything up to another level. They're able to utilize what that building has and make it a far better experience. But also the central nature of the building. I think this is just going to work. And then you've got, the level of play. I'm certainly not a basketball expert. I don't know where it would. There are some guys in the G League that'll play in this league in the summer. But I'll tell you what, to be able to have a couple local players like Chad Posthumous, who was such a big part of it, and Simon Hildebrand, who had that monster rookie season for the Bisons play as well. I think the deck is stacked for this to be a real successful season. Anyways, a great way that it started. Now, part of the reason I'm sure why you weren't there was because there was Bomber preseason action. And First of all, shout out to the CFL. Stream was good. Got to hear Dusty do the game, obviously, on the CFL stream. There wasn't a lot of huge topics and stories through this Bomber training camp, but we did know that, come preseason time, we would learn some things. What were the big standouts to you from what you were hoping to find out from the preseason game, and did you get any answers?
Yeah, I think I'll start off by saying before we get into Piggy T and his performances, as I'm sure you've already touched on, and that was probably the biggest takeaway, was that it's the preseason game, right? It's the first preseason game, so things are going to be sloppy. I don't know how much you can take away, in that Edmonton in a lot of ways dominated the Bombers. They dominated them with, dominated them in total yards. They dominated them particularly in the ground game. They exposed Winnipeg's first team defense throughout the first 2 quarters in a lot of ways. I thought, those would probably be some of the more negative stuff, but they still, despite all that, ended up with a 2-point victory. And, these games don't count for anything in the standings, obviously, but there's certainly a point of pride there. And so that's obviously a positive for the Bombers. And, I think like many people, was a little bit surprised that Zach Collaros played in the game and for as long as he did. I think if things went a bit smoother for him early on in the game, like if he would have led the game with 2 touchdown drives rather than two and outs to start with the offense, he probably wouldn't have seen him after that. But because he had a slow start, I think the Bombers wanted to get him just some reps, right? Just some valuable reps so that they can, what will likely be the case next week, sit him out. But, I thought for him to get things going, and particularly with Kenny Lawler, I know there's a lot of Bomber fans that watch that and are getting excited about, those repeat performances between 2 guys that connected for a lot of those highlight reel passes and touchdowns in 2021 when Kenny Lawler led the league in receiving as a Winnipeg Blue Bomber. So that was obviously a good sign. I thought, outside of that, let's get to it. Tyrell Pigrome was, if you're talking about how few battles there were heading into this training camp, the only one that really existed after Sergio Castillo was signed and the place kicking narrative just completely changed was who was going to be the third quarterback, who was going to be the quarterback that was going to replace Dakota Prukop, throw the ball, be able to throw the ball, but be able to run the ball most importantly. And anyone who looked at Pigrome's Piggy T, as he's so affectionately known by the team now, is that, look at what he did. I mean, and if you look at his performance, Huss, it couldn't have started out any worse. The first snap was his first play behind center was a botched snap, well over his head. Nothing he could do about it for a loss of 17. And then, then he turns around, he's facing second and 27, and he fires a 34-yard dart to Jeremy Murphy, who also had another good catch. He's a name that I don't think many people would have known, and but certainly, helped his case with two key catches. And then to cap off that series, Pigram runs for a 45-yard touchdown. Like he's Cam Newton. Like it was. Dude,
that play was crazy. Like the minute he was about 3 yards past the line of scrimmage,
lightning.
If you had just started that play at that point, you wouldn't have thought he was a quarterback. You would have thought he was a running back or a receiver that had just caught some sort of a slant and was gone. I mean, that's an athlete right there.
Oh, and a guy that I think answered a lot of questions. Now, is he the slam dunk guy for the role? I don't know if you can say that just yet. I mean, Josh Jones, it sure looked like it. He's certainly the front runner for it. The Bombers liked him a lot. They like, he's not a big guy. To steal a description that from you're getting Bauming after me, I believe, but to steal his description, he says he's got a Kevin Glenn type figure, and he's not, so he's not a big dude. But the Bombers like what they got from him. They know he's got they wanted to see his legs in action, and certainly he showed that off with the team high 71 rushing yards, right? And so, but I just mentioned Jones because the guy gets in with 4 minutes left in the game and really doesn't get much opportunity to show anything. So I'm sure that's going to be the case next week, and that's the interesting part. I think the Bombers are going at it completely different this year, just understanding how old their core is, how experienced their team is, and how little they need to get reps and risk injury in the preseason. I think you're going to see very few starters in the home game against Saskatchewan this week. And so I think what we saw there, and I think the biggest takeaway beyond Pigmore's performance was the fact that the team got out of there unscathed and healthy, and that's what you want to do in the preseason. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that decision for a minute. I, like you, was a little surprised. Usually, if anything, you're going to keep the guys out and then play them a little bit right before the season starts. Was this maybe a reversal of thinking? Let's get these guys some action right now. The regular season game is just a week after this game on Friday at the home game. And maybe if guys were nicked up, it gives them a little bit more time to be ready. Or did Coach O'Shea talk at all about, basically his line of thinking, bringing so many of the ones out to Edmonton?
Good one, Huss. Yeah, Mike O'Shea laid it all out on a platter for us. Exactly what his mind frame was with the roster. No, it's quite obvious now. I mean, I think he was trying to hold his cards as close to his vest as he possibly could. But then when you put out a roster that the Bombers did, and all these guys were going, and the starting O-line was playing, and every starting receiver, they're really the only guy missing in the offense was Brady Oliveira, and he hasn't practiced at training camp for weeks now. So I think once we saw that, you could just see that, and Willie Jefferson said it on CJOB after the game. He noted, he kind of laid it out on a flyer, to be honest with you. He said, because of the, as you mentioned, Toss, because of the quick turnaround with the regular season game, just the opening just a week later, just for that, repair and recovery is a lot more important than any potential rust that might be in place, right? Because these guys have been going pretty hard at training camp. They've been, I'm sure these guys would love to have, when I say these guys, I mean like Willie Jefferson and Adam Big Hill's another guy who hasn't even practiced in training camp, so there's an interesting situation right now, but. I think a lot of guys would love the reps. I think they prefer to be healthy heading into the regular season when things matter most.
As far as the defensive side of the game, I have to admit, Edmonton ran the ball on the Bombers a lot. Casey Sales is gone. Mm-hmm. Jackson Jeffcoat is hurt. And to be honest, I think he's played 12 games the last couple of seasons.
Right.
You mentioned Big Hill not being there. Is that the one potential area of concern for Winnipeg going into the year? And do they have all the bodies? Might they need to add another player in and around the defensive line?
Yeah, I think when you look at just how consistent they are and dominant really in a lot of areas, when you look at, for all those things you just mentioned, the injuries, the inconsistency in that game. I mean, yeah, they were missing, they were without Casey Sales now, who's with Hamilton. They didn't have Jackson Jeffcoat, which is obviously an important player for them. But I think that's just precautionary because of those reasons you mentioned, Huss. I think if you were to look at any player and go beyond maybe Zach Collaros, why you would even play him in the preseason, I think Jackson Jeffcoat would probably be number 2, given how, for lack of a better term, fragile he's been as far as injuries have gone over his career the last few years. So, that's obviously going to affect things. And of course, Adam Bighill, the quarterback and the linebackers, the guy who's pretty much coaching, the weak side and getting him prepared. And just as fast and as good as he is around the ball, that's going to affect the run game defense. So both of those guys, though, are expected to be ready to go. I mean, that's we've given, Mike O'Shea isn't exact. I mean, he hasn't been great at, suggesting when guys are going to be in, but the feeling is, or at least what every indication we've got is that, Adam Bighill is going to be ready by the regular season. And same thing with Jackson Jeffcoat, who has practiced this in training camp. So I think, but if you start looking at those bodies, especially this week, I mean, if Adam Bighill doesn't get on by this week, I mean, and then he goes into next week to actually prepare for week 1, and which you could ultimately say he's without a training camp. He doesn't need the training, the preseason reps per se, and the potential for a risk of injury, but he's not, as superhuman as he is in a lot of ways. I still think he needs to have some level of participation at training camp to feel like you're comfortable putting him in there. So I think this week we're going to get an even better idea, obviously, of his injury. And I know that, Brady Oliveira is banged up. I mean, I think in this situation, it's one of those things where you don't want to risk it, making it worse. And he will probably be a game time, I wouldn't say game time decision per se, but he probably will be sitting out much of next week. And I wouldn't be as surprised to see him in the first day of week 1 of the regular season. Anyways, obviously not great news, but all indications we've had from all the key players that are out, and that's including Janarian Grant, who's on the suspended list because he's banged up and it's a paperwork issue. He's expected to be ready for week 1. So as much as we don't have any answers to those guys, health statuses or availabilities for week 1, we're going to get a better idea here over the next week.
Jeff Hamilton, the Winnipeg Free Press, with us. Let's get to the pucks. And I mean, listen, since we last spoke, there really hasn't been much of anything happening in and around the Winnipeg Jets. Not that, well, publicly at least. I mean, I think you can be rest assured that there's lots going on behind the scenes right now, a lot of phone calls with agents and probably to other general managers. But, I mean, listen, there's some things that have to happen, whether people expect him to, quote unquote, try and run it back or make massive changes. I think we know that just with the contract situations that things are going to be coming up in the month of June right now. But what are you expecting, Jeff? I mean, is it for things to happen more draft week in Nashville, or, essentially when the cup ends, the cup final ends, which is usually sort of a dark time in the league? They don't like big moves happening, maybe taking attention away from the cup final. Do you think that there will start to be some activity before anyone even gets to Music City?
I think you have to. I mean, I don't think that you can, just with how many, unless you've made a decision on guys already. So unless you've made a decision that and I've been leaning more towards this side, if you made a decision on Mark Scheifele and say Blake Wheeler staying, I think then you could probably do the draft stuff. You could probably wait up to the draft and then not pass the draft to maybe get a Pierre-Luc Dubois and Connor Hellebuyck, because you could make these especially if you're talking with these teams, and I'm assuming you would be talking with teams leading up to this time, and you kind of know what by that point you kind of know what the sweet spot is, or what middle ground you're trying to make up here. I think that you'd have to do something before that, and I think I've been saying this for weeks, and a lot of people have agreed with this and have said it themselves. Is that I think Pierre-Luc Dubois is the first one, the first piece to fall. But there's a lot loaded, I think, in that deal with his health status and and what the results of his physical are eventually going to say, and trying to figure out just how valuable he is going to be next season, right? Because as we all know the timeline, I mean, Montreal could just hold off and maybe offer sheet after the draft. And so there's lots of things at play there. I just think if you're trying to get business done, that would be probably the first one you'd want to get out of the way. And then you make the decision on the other three, whether you want to keep them or whether, whether they're, better fit for a trade. That's where I think the deadline of the NHL draft is what I think, especially around 26 and 55, is the answer we're going to get for, I think, what the Jets' decision is. I think they might go into next season not, wanting to be a team that they believe could contend, under a vision of Rick Bowness, I imagine too, and of course Kevin Cheveldayoff and Mark Chipman, and then decide after the draft, maybe to go into next year. At that point in time, I'd be way less confident that the Winnipeg Jets are looking to change things up, just because all we've heard and we've seen from reports about their lack of interest in, rebuilding and all those things. If any of those pieces go into the draft and then move and are still with this team on the draft, I think we have our answer on where this team's probably, where their head's at with which guys they want to keep and which want to go.
Well, let me ask you about that, because again, and listen, I'm not sure that there's been any public statements from any of those parties, Bonus, well, particularly Cheveldayoff, that, there's no intent on a rebuild and again, everyone has a different definition of that term too, which complicates things so much. But I think we all realize that something's got to give. I mean, with all of these players, there's either extensions or they're moving those players for different assets. I mean, I can't imagine, and I don't think the Jets can possibly be in the business of letting any of those guys walk for nothing at the end of their year. And I don't think they're close enough to winning anything that it would be worth risking that. and I think that they, looking in the mirror, would agree with that as well. But the Scheifele situation is quite interesting. Do you think that if they don't get the offer that they think that he is worth, and there's no extension, which I don't think that there will be, that's just a personal opinion, I obviously could be wrong, that they could have him come in and play through this season expecting to be dealt at some point, at the latest point, the trade deadline? And if that happens, what sort of effect does that have on the team overall?
Yeah, I mean, that would be under the idea that they would have this conversation like they'd already decided he was gone, and that, so you're asking if that was the situation, what the headspace of Mark Scheifele would be, knowing that he was was going to be dealt at some point this season. I don't know if I could see the Winnipeg Jets taking that approach, just from a business standpoint, because I mean, to answer that question, I think we've already kind of seen the way Mark Scheifele reacts under pressure, or not pressure per se, but when he's called out or is put under the spotlight or not made to feel great, by the team's leadership. He hasn't exactly responded well. So to think that you would go into some negotiation where you would almost promise a trade by the deadline, I don't know why the Jets would do that. I think the approach you would take if you were to keep Mark Scheifele in the next season was you try to negotiate with them. You try to get him potentially at a deal that you're happy with, that Mark Scheifele probably has no interest in doing. And then so you hold on to this, maybe because if you do eventually trade him, and that is the deadline you've kind of set for yourself, and I imagine you would have to set for yourself, if you're Kevin Cheveldayoff, once you dealt him, you kind of maintain that narrative that you tried everything in your power to bring him back, and you finally reached a crossroads and had to deliver on a trade. Whether that was your intention the entire time or whatever, I don't think you need to play your cards that much. And so, but I could also see the Jets. Is it something I would advocate for? Probably not, but I could see the Jets trying to work out a long-term deal with Mark Scheifele. Probably not 8 years, or if it was 8 years, it wouldn't be max money or anything like that. But I mean, that's kind of the decision. I think that's the clarity they're all searching for right now, and then understanding once you've got a better understanding of where everyone's head's at, you can start negotiating or start attacking your plan, understanding, getting that clarity. You need that before you start reaching out to guys, because guys talk, and guys, they want the love, and they want to know that they're priority. And so I think, I'd be fascinating to find out what that is, because again, we're going to get a lot of those answers over the next few weeks here and hang into the draft, how those conversations went. We're never going to find out unless Kevin Cheveldayoff or the players come out and say, this is what, I asked for. We're going to have to figure that out, through action, and potentially what happens at the draft. Because like I said, if it goes in after the draft and you have those players, I think those conversations or possibilities of sticking around, whether it's till the trade deadline or longer, get pretty good after the draft.
It's funny you say that, because I have to admit, I'm sort of with you that I think probably the most likely thing that they're going to tackle right off the bat would be Dubois. But if there's a possibility that one of those players is going to come back and play for the Winnipeg Jets this season through most of the year, knowing that they'll likely be dealt at some point, I actually think Dubois could handle that far better than Scheifele could.
Oh, I think Dubois has handled that the last couple seasons in Winnipeg. So,
whatever.
I think he's just like, this is where I'm at. I'm going to make the best of it. I mean, these guys have things to play for, right? I mean, it's a long-term plan, and you're not gonna think too far down the road. You have to be in the moment, and the moment's pretty darn good if you're Pierre-Luc Dubois or Mark Scheifele. You're playing for a team that gives you plenty of ice time and opportunity, and a platform to showcase your skills to wherever you might want to be. So there's a lot of incentive to play. It's just, I think when it comes down to it, and the mental fortitude it takes, and the collectedness of a team, the less key players you have on your team that, at least mentally have, a tippy toe out the door, the better for that cohesion and finding, what you need and that excitement and whatnot, that goes into long playoff runs and grueling rides to the cup.
Yeah. Because Dubois, as we've seen before, now listen, I think part of, the fact that he can just think about other things or doesn't know what he's having for dinner that night, and also maybe don't know how he's going to play that night, or whether he's going to look like Game 1 Pierre-Luc Dubois or Game 5 Pierre-Luc Dubois. But I honestly don't think that it would be like some sort of a cloud around him at all the times. I think you'd probably get the same Pierre-Luc Dubois that you would be getting regardless of any other variables in and around it. And it wouldn't be a surprise to anybody that he would be dealt at the trade deadline or at some point. And to be fair to Cheveldayoff, I think that even if he was having a good season or things are going well, I think everyone would totally understand them doing that because of, hell, you traded Patrick Laine and Jack Roslovic to get this guy. You cannot lose him for nothing. And I think it's incumbent on him for his job to do the best he can to get the best return whenever that point is. Now, is it better to do things now and get ahead of it and move on? Absolutely, but not just unique to Dubois. There's just so much for Cheveldayoff to do. If you talk about these four players that we think are all in the mix, the two centers, Scheifele and Dubois, Blake Wheeler's situation, and Connor Hellebuck on top of that, depending on how their talks are going. There is a chance that some of that drags into the season, although I would imagine from a Jets perspective, they probably would like to have clarity on that, whether that's realistic or not, considering what's on the table for those players.
Like specifically for 26 and 55?
Well, for all of those, but I would say some situations are different than others just based on demand and the ease or difficulty of moving the contract.
Oh, for sure. And other factors will be at play as well. If someone makes a call to Kevin Cheveldayoff and wants to give you the world for Mike Scheifele, has figured out their roster or looking at their roster configuration for next season and needs a guy who just tucked 42 goals and bleeds hockey and could clearly use a change of scenery, I think that might dictate, the priority list, right? And so, but if you're just going about, internally and mentally, we've talked about this lots. If you are looking to continue to be a team that is going to compete, you are going to make an effort to keep Connor Hellebuck. Whether Connor Hellebuck, is going to want to stick around or is convinced that you have the team or will be the team over whatever amount of years in a contract he would ask for to be a contender, is up to the Jets in their sales pitch. I don't think they'll get that. I'd be surprised if Connor Hellebuck signed an extension and said that he believes in this team. and their future after we heard some of his comments about talking about in his exit interview, talking about individual players having great success, wherever they might go, but collectively just haven't seemed to find that recipe. And that's been the case with this team. So I don't see, with those feelings changing, that obviously becomes a main priority. And I think the question you need to ask yourself, and maybe you're getting those answers certainly over this offseason. The offseason is still fairly young too. So that's another thing to take into consideration. And we talked about this, Huss, like there's not a lot of unrestricted free agents coming that, teams are licking their lips over. The Jets have guys that, are quality players, are younger in a lot of cases, or dominant at their position. And because of that, lack of UFA kind of talent heading into the market, you're going to, you potentially get a better deal. But, I also think you need to figure out over this summer what that is, what those offers are, and then try to look at years past and potentially what the trade deadline, take back could be. I mean, maybe there's some players that make more sense. Maybe a Blake Wheeler makes more sense, dealing at the trade deadline than he does over the summer, or, Mark Scheifele, or certainly I would not say Connor Hellebuck and Pierre-Luc Dubois, but who knows? I mean, those are answers that they're going to have to figure out here. And what you already said is a busy offseason.
Well, listen, the Wheeler situation is far different. I think the reasons for considering or trying to move him are very different than those other three players. And here's the thing, Jeff. I mean, for Wheeler, if it got to the trade deadline, I mean, you're pretty much just about done the contract. I mean, at that time, yeah, maybe there's a taker that will just be paying. They think that Blake could be a good depth piece for them on some sort of a playoff run and would take it. But I'm not sure that solves the problems of why the Winnipeg Jets are considering doing this right now, to have a real true turnover amongst a culture change within that club. If you did a percentage pie chart, if you will, give me your percentages on this. Blake Wheeler is traded and the Jets retain salary. Blake Wheeler is bought out. Neither happen, and Blake Wheeler plays next year for the Winnipeg Jets. Give me those three scenarios. How would you handicap those right now?
So, traded with money.
I include money because I don't think there's
money, yeah.
I think there's zero chance of trading that $8+ million
buy him
contract.
out or keep him.
Yes.
I would say 40% or 45% that they would trade him and retain money, 45% that he would stay with the team, and 10% that they would buy him out. Actually, I almost feel like I would split the two evenly of those two options, which is a bit of a cop-out, and make buyout 1%. Just because it's like one of those things you had to do one star. I can't
see that happening.
I just can't see this team and their relationship with Blake Wheeler and everything that they've, done for him and he's done for them and what they put up with and whatever and all those things. I mean, if they were to buy him out, what would that reaction be in the locker room? I mean, we heard about we listened to several guys in the exit interviews refer to him as the team's captain. I mean, to get him up to, to the end of this long contract, just 1 year remaining, and to buy him out would take a ton of guts, in my opinion. And I just don't see the Jets maybe having them to make that decision. So I would say
it would be different. I mean, like, it's either you're here or you're not there. I mean, like everything, like whether it's team.
Well, there's another option. There's another option there. There's a potential option like Blake has dealt with. I mean, he's dealt with a lot of injuries over the year. I mean, he's dealt with, I imagine, some chronic injuries. He's had, a lot of, again, played a really rough game. I mean, he might not be game ready. So there might be a potential for, an LTIR situation if he's not, because I also don't see him retiring. I just don't, he doesn't come across as the guy like a Bufflin who could just walk away from, a bunch of cash in 1 year, and not blink an eye.
$8.25 million reasons.
Yeah, speaking of 1% of players, of 1% of players, that's Dustin Bufflin and everybody else. So.
The true 1%er. Hey, just quickly on the way out, I know Bombers were off today and they'll get back on the practice field. I mean, do you think that this will be a very young team that takes the field for Friday? And really, right now, the preparations are on for the Ticats on the home opener on June 9th?
Yeah, I really do. I think this would be their best opportunity to get as much information as they can on these final cuts. There's obviously a lot of guys they still need to look at throughout this week, and then of course the game. And when you give as many reps as you did to the first team offense, the first team defense, I don't think you give those players who you're trying to get answers from, a good enough shot with what we saw in game one. So I'm fully expecting. They might dress a lot of people, but I'm fully expecting the majority, if not all of those reps to be going to, the players, the second team players, third team players, if it gets that, and then, sprinkled in with maybe a couple veterans just based on numbers. But I'm expecting a very, very young and inexperienced team against the Riders this week. Good
stuff, man. Have a great week. I'll look forward to, seeing you down at IG Field on Friday. Can't wait to get back to the stadium, and maybe we can do a debriefing at a local watering hole at some point after the game on Saturday or Sunday.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a horrible idea, Hassan. I'll see if I can't get back on the waters this week. It's disappointing. I certainly don't like to. I don't like to miss 2 weeks in a row. So maybe we have that. And other than that, shout out to the watchers. They make the show. So we'll talk to you next week.
Take it easy, pal. There is Jeff Hamilton. And speaking of that Bomber home opener and preseason game on Friday, we got back-to-back Friday games at IG Field. You know where the place to be before the game is. The Princess Auto Tailgate Zone before every Blue Bomber game. Beer and food specials beforehand. Great entertainment and absolutely the place to be before Blue Bomber football. Get there early. Princess Auto, proud sponsors of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, and the place where you find the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new is at Princess Auto. 2 Winnipeg locations. You can always shop online 24/7, 365 at princessauto.com. A lot of yard work was done this weekend, I'm sure. Gang, if you have irrigation issues that you need to fix on your property, I got a guy for you. That guy is our pal Joe down at Consolidated Supply. Consolidated Supply are the leaders in irrigation systems, working with the golf industry for decades, and can do the same for your property as well. They've also got artificial turf if you got needs for turf at all. And of course, new and used golf carts is the exclusive club car dealer in Manitoba. They do have some other great options for your property as well, though. Hot tubs and amazing outdoor kitchen options. And of course, they're also the leaders in small engine parts and repair. Pop by and see Consolidated Supply at their new showroom, open to the public, 1395 Niagara Road East, or find out more online at cte.ca. It was such a great weekend, a little too windy for a lot of golf and even the disc golf. Disc golf was tough over the course of the last few days. But if you want to get into disc golf, you need to head on down to Royal Sports right now. One of the fastest growing and most fun outdoor summer activities is just a couple of throws away from you. Head on down to Royal Sports at 750 Pembina. Check out all the discs they have in, as well as portable targets, so you can bring out and play at the lake or really anywhere you want. They've also got spring stock arriving daily with soccer, baseball, softball, tennis equipment, and so much more, not to mention the biggest and best selection of licensed team gear featuring the Jets, Bombers, NHL, NFL, and tons more. I was in Royal on Saturday. Lots of great Bomber gear as well if you want to maybe up your blue and gold quota in the wardrobe, getting ready for the home opener next week. 750 Pembina Highways, Royal Sports. Follow them on Instagram as well, at Royal Sports Pembina, for the latest merchandise drops and sale information. And hey, shout out to our friends at Boston Pizza. We got a big game tonight, Game 6 between the Stars and Vegas Golden Knights. We got Game 7 between the Heat and Celtics. There's nowhere better to get together with friends for the big game than your local BP. Enjoy ice-cold schooners, world-famous BP wings, and gourmet pizzas, and the latest from the BP feature menu. Staying in, you can always order online at bostonpizza.com. All right, horse picks still to come. We will get to the lines for those games tonight with Coolbet a little later on, but let's get a very busy Darrin Bauming in, who we caught up with on Saturday after finishing his duties as the host of Bonfire Sports, Bomber post-game coverage, and then right down to one of his other gigs where he's going to be doing mic work for the Winnipeg Sea Bears this season. DB, what's going on? How are you? You recover from that weekend? You were all over the place.
Yeah, I've been resting up. I've been resting up hard, like the football club is here in Winnipeg following that preseason game. But let's not address. Let's get right to the elephant in the room. That Winnipeg Sea Bears atmosphere was off the charts. Like, I was expecting Winnipeg and the culture that is here in Winnipeg for basketball to respond well to pro basketball being back to the city. But I was blown away. Like, obviously shattering the CEBL attendance record. Like, what was it, 4,400 in Fraser Valley last year? They're well over 7,000 at Canada Life Center for game one. Dramatic win, dramatic finish. Love the target score, the Elam rule or whatever they call it, the FIBA rule. Some people seem to think this is like a CEBL thing. No, this is a FIBA thing, an international basketball rule to bring good drama and importance to the finish. But I'm just impressed with Winnipeggers and Manitobans coming out, supporting this new game, supporting this new pro team. Like Wade Miller was there, and obviously the owner of the club, David Asper, and it was a veritable who's who inside that stadium, and even people up, in the cheaper seats.
Carter Chen was there.
Yeah, it was tough to get tickets, right?
All the Winnipeg influencers.
Yeah, I know. Obviously, you were there. Instagram was lit up with Sea Bears goodness, Twitter as well. It was just awesome to be there, and I'm really looking forward to lending my voice to half the home games this year. I'm kicking myself. I wasn't able to work that first game.
Well, you were busy, but you got there at the end. You got to see the good stuff, and that was the win. As far as the game went, though, it was really fun. It was back and forth. Sea Bears got a nice lead. And you mentioned those rules, and those rules are, if you have not, and I had never seen a target score game before that night. It was 80-68, I think, when they got to the point, and they add 9 points to the Sea Bears total. So it was whoever got to 89 first. It got a little nervous there at the end because Sea Bears went to Brick City for about 2.5 minutes after they got into the target score, but they got that win. It makes a lot of sense. I wasn't really too sure how that was going to work, but you don't have teams trying to kill time. You don't have teams just fouling like often happens.
Yeah.
It ended up being, an incredibly exciting way to finish a game. And, of course, it couldn't have ended up much better than the first ever Sea Bear, Winnipeg's own, the beast from River East, Chad Bostumus, putting one back for the first ever historic win for the franchise.
Yeah, Chat GPT couldn't have written a better game story finish for the Sea Bears' first game. But I love the target score. I think it's something that shouldn't be overlooked. It keeps everybody in the building engaged. It keeps the teams engaged. And I think it is incredibly fair. You know, if you have an 80-68 spread with 4 minutes remaining, put 9 points on top of the leading team's score and let the two teams duke it out. And, well, this weekend we saw why it is such a popular way to finish games, going right down to the wire. Yeah, Winnipeg got cold shooting the ball. Teddy Buckets, Teddy Allen, expecting to be Winnipeg's far and away leading scorer. This is the guy who has earned the nickname Teddy Buckets because he scores a ton of points, CEBL veteran, and somebody Sea Bears fans and Winnipeg sports fans are going to get to know over the coming weeks and months. But he had a really cold night. I think he went 4 for 20 or something from the field. But this is a guy that averaged like 27 plus points in the CEBL last year. Uncharacteristic off night. If he was on his game or even just a little bit better than what he showed, I think the Sea Bears would have run away with that game. Even with him being cold, they held that heavy lead. But Chad Postumus, veteran, big body. What I've seen in him and in watching the Sea Bears practice and obviously the game on Saturday is the guy hustles. He's playing hard every single play, and it's got to be a little bit of extra energy in him playing in front of the hometown fans at the pro level for the first time in his life. But awesome. Go check out a Sea Bears game. It's a hot ticket right now.
Well, and Simon Hildebrand was awesome. I mean, the rookie of the year from the Bisons, and I know Sean Moranin, a favorite of ours here on WST from the Westmans on the squad as well. So, I mean, overall, just a great start for Pro Hoops returning. 22 years. I couldn't believe it was that long since the Cyclone shut it down. It just goes to show how old we are. Anyways, we'll move on from that topic. DB, you, of course, did do double duty on Saturday because it was the first post-game show with Bonfire Sports and the Bombers. What'd you think about the preseason win over Edmonton?
Well, if I want to be real, preseason's preseason, right? You're out there watching the teams and you're not really invested in like strategy or who's going to win or, different game planning or this or that or the other. It's vanilla. It's about assessment. It's essentially a live action job interview for a lot of guys on both teams. The Edmonton Elks, it was their second preseason game. They got things going last weekend on Sunday. So for them, it was a little bit more of their regular guys and their starters. It was their last opportunity to get a look at guys before they made a whole bunch of cuts. I think it was yesterday, Hustler. Sammy Coates cut from the Edmonton Elks. People remember him with the Pittsburgh Steelers, time in the NFL, big-bodied receiver. Like so many from the NFL coming up here to try to extend their careers, couldn't make it happen. But the overwhelming storyline coming out of that Blue Bombers win in preseason game 1 is the man they call Piggy T, number 3, QB3, Terrell Pigram. Electric, quick, fast, doing all types of things on the field, punched in a touchdown on a drive led by Zach Collaros and the Blue Bombers' first team offense late in the game. Huge 2nd and 27 conversion. I think it was 2nd and 27 to Canadian rookie Jeremy Murphy, punching in another touchdown after that, showing speed, showing the arm, showing quickness, and showing the ability to move the chains. So for Winnipeg, the Dakota Prukop weapon that he was last season, well, he's now gone. Maybe it is Terrell Pigram, who is that guy that's going to come in on short yardage. We'll see how this second preseason game goes. Josh Jones, very different physical makeup as the Blue Bombers' other prospect quarterback behind Zach Collaros and Drew Brown. So Josh Jones, he needs a big game this coming weekend in preseason game number 2.
Any concerns with the defensive line? The Elks certainly ran on the Bombers. Casey Sales is gone. Still, I'm not sure ever really replaced Stowe Richardson. And of course, Jackson Jeffcoat wasn't out there. I guess if there is an area of either offense or defense that is somewhat up in the air or not entirely established, was it safe to say it's the defensive side of the line of scrimmage? Or is that just an overreaction to the weekend?
Well, that's our job. Our job is to overreact to these things, right? We want to know what's going on. We want to know if and where there might be somewhere Winnipeg can be better. This is the important thing to remember for fans out there. The preseason is vanilla for a reason. Even the first couple weeks of the regular season, you're not going to see everything. All these offensive and defensive coordinators go deep into the playbook. Same with the run game and even the run stop game. It's not just about the offensive play that's called. It's about the defensive play that is called and the scheme and game plan against the opponent. I'm not going to say Winnipeg needs to be better against the run. I'm not going to say Winnipeg's run game on offense needs to be better until I start seeing it make an effect on games that matter during the regular season. Stowe Richardson, you say Winnipeg maybe has never replaced him. I thought Casey Sales was excellent last season for Winnipeg, and that was echoed in the contract he got. I think he's the highest paid interior defensive lineman in the CFL, signing a nice deal to go to the East Division and continue his career. But Stove was huge. Casey Sales was huge. Can Ricky Walker be that guy to take the majority of the reps at defensive tackle next to Jake Thomas and be consistent in his production and his run stuffing ability? I don't think he is maybe blowing anybody's socks off, but the team is confident in him. He was taking meaningful snaps late in the game in the Grey Cup last year. Everybody remembers him nearly tiptoe tripping Chad Kelly on that huge run that he made that essentially sealed the game for the Argos. So, a couple inches away from making a huge play in the backfield was Ricky Walker in the Grey Cup. And who knows how things would have shaken out. But of course, that's history to not be redigested. But for Winnipeg, getting a healthy Jackson Jeffcoat, good and ready to go for the regular season. Willie Jefferson there, maybe a young guy can do something in the second preseason game, hustler, and lock in a spot in a defensive rotation. But all things said and done, I mean, they're deep at linebacker. Barrington Wade, a young first-year player who has opened some eyes. He's right there with Malik Clements and Adam Bighill. Kyrie Wilson, of course, wildly underrated linebacker in the Canadian Football League today, veteran of this Blue Bombers defense, on the 6-game injured list to start the season. They got a ton of guys in the defensive backfield, a lot of veterans returning, a lot of young guys, Jamal Parker, Matt Cole is a rookie, Demario Houston. I think all of those guys are going to grow into starting and contributing roles on the defense. I think Winnipeg, all things considered, are one of those teams that GMs and head coaches across the CFL are wishing that they had their lineup, are wishing that they had their history of success with defensive coordinator Richie Hall over the last number of years here in Winnipeg. I wouldn't worry about anything until it's actually worth worrying about.
Hey, DB, considering we're still in the future stage of the CFL betting season, let me just ask you this, staying away from what the odds, but if you were handicapping, and I think we all agree the Bombers are the team to beat, who's number 2 right now? Who do you see on paper, at least, as the biggest challenge to the Bombers, whether it's in the West or over in the East Division?
Yeah, okay. Well, I'll give you a number 2 to the Bombers in each division, and then I'll give you a dark horse to watch, because I think a lot of people are sleeping on a certain team in the East. I think Edmonton will be better, but I don't think they're going to be pushing the top teams in the league. They'll get to the playoffs. I think the Calgary Stampeders are a team that, because of Jake Mayer's play late in the year, especially in that playoff game at BC Place, getting pulled for Bo Levi Mitchell, a lot of people are thinking, maybe he's not a guy that can make it happen. But if John Huffnagel and Dave Dickinson have said this is the guy that we're going to go with and we're going to move on from Bo Levi Mitchell, I'm going to tend to agree with them, or at least trust that.
They've earned the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, before, just writing a guy off after, a bad stretch of games late in the year. BC's defense was good. Winnipeg's defense was good. Maybe Calgary wasn't playing their best football when it mattered most. So I think Calgary is the team that is going to be number 2 to the Winnipeg Blue Bombers as far as power rankings are concerned, or a team that's going to make some noise in the West. In the East, everybody who watches Bonfire Sports knows I'm high on the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Their general manager, their head coach in Orlando Steinhauer. It is a tip-top ship from top to bottom in Hamilton. Tons of talent, lots of change in the defensive backfield this year, but you add Bo Levi Mitchell for some stability and veteran swagger on the offense. I don't think Bo Levi Mitchell is done or packed up, or, sure, he might be in the back nine of his career, but I still think he can be an effective winning quarterback on a team that is rock solid in the Hamilton Tiger Cats. So Calgary in the West, Hamilton in the East, and the team I think people are sleeping on, the dark horse of 2023, Winnipeg's own Bobby L.A. Dice, the new head coach of the Ottawa Red Blacks, a healthy Jeremiah Masoli, weapons on offense, tons of depth on defense. Lorenzo Malden, the type of season he had at defensive line, they are going to be a very good football team. We remember here in Winnipeg how close those 2 Bombers wins against the Red Blacks were early in the season. They fought tooth and nail prior to Masoli getting hurt. I think Ottawa is going to make a lot of noise in the CFL this year.
I am with you. Their over-under for wins is 8.
Yeah.
I hammered the 8. And listen, this all comes down to Jeremiah Masoli.
Yeah.
If he can be healthy. But I'm with you, and I've said this before. I think Bob Dice is such a great addition as a head coach, because they'll have other coordinators but he is a leader of men. And you talk to any guy that's played for Bobby Dice, and they will run through a wall for that guy. And with some of the new players they've got in, returning their quarterback back, I'll be honest, I don't even mind Jeremiah Masoli at 7-1 for MOP. And I'll tell you why that is. I do think that, I expect the Bombers to win the West and to still be that team. And I think around the rest of the league, there's somewhat of Bomber fatigue. Bombers have been this team. They're always there. We're always talking about their players. If Jeremiah Masoli can come in on a team that was brutal last year without him, and they can turn that into a 10-win season and host a playoff game, I think there'll be a lot of people that will maybe look east for a guy that can do that. And you could make an argument for Bo Levi, but I'm particularly high on Ottawa. And I wouldn't be surprised if they could even get to 10 wins or so. And listen, I think the East is so wide open, Darrin.
Yeah.
I think that, we could very well see something similar to last year where we've got 3 teams all within a couple games of each other. And that bye being determined in the last, week 20 or week 21 of the CFL season.
So here's a little inside track for the viewers out there. I'm having some conversations with people, staffers on teams in the East just yesterday and over the weekend. And, I'll float it out to them and be like, man, the East looks pretty wide open. And it's almost like they don't want to say too much because it is really wide open. I think every team in the East, every single team, even the Montreal Alouettes that a lot of people are, maybe thinking is going to miss the playoffs with a new head coach, Jason Moss, reunited with quarterback Cody Fajardo, just now in Montreal. But all of those teams in the East think they can win. So I think that hesitation of saying, yeah, it's wide open, we like our chances. It's almost like, it is wide open. Anything can happen. That's the beauty of the crazy football league, the CFL, is that you never know what's going to happen. For the bettors out there, it is so much fun early in the season. Run with those underdogs in those early games of the regular season. You're probably going to do better than you think you will, taking those underdogs and finding those better odds. But yeah, when you talk about Hustler, you talk about the Blue Bombers fatigue. I think you are on the nose correct because the numbers, when you look at, the odds of Zach Collaros to lead the league in passing or to be the MOP, the payoff's not that great. And for Winnipeg, remember, Zach Collaros is QB1 on an offense that is balanced. Brady Oliveira, Johnny Augustine, this Jordan Salima kid that, has been pretty good, through training camp. Greg McCrae, Nick Dembski, all of these different weapons that can run the football and be involved in the pass game. I don't think Winnipeg is going to be a team that's going to be like, okay, Kenny Lawler's got 1,200 yards and Dalton Schoen's got 1,300 yards and Zach Collaros has got, 40 touchdowns. I think it's going to be a very, very balanced attack. So if you're looking for those CFL futures bets that are about who leads the league or who might be East Division, West Division, MOP nominees or those sorts of things, I think there's a lot of value out there beyond the team that has really dominated the awards and obviously winning, a whole bunch of Grey Cups over the last number of years in the Blue Bombers.
Darrin Bauming is with us talking a little Bombers for his Bonfire Sports role. And again, we did hit the Sea Bears, get out to a game. You'll hear the dulcet tones of our guest right now cranking out the PA from the sideline. But hey, Bombers are back. We got a home game this week for preseason, home opener the next week. You're in full swing with Bonfire Sports. Fill people in on the schedule and where they can find out all the great blue and gold content you and the fellas are cranking out.
Every single game, pre-game coverage, me and Chris Walby, the day before the game, we go live. Join us, jump into the live chat. We have a ton of fun. Nobody tops 63 Chris Walby for his obvious historical perspective and analysis currently on the Winnipeg Blue Bombers and the CFL. Post-game, Game Day After Dark. I'll have a variety of different individuals and newsmakers joining me for the post-game show. We go live, 15, 20, 25 minutes after the game. Tons of fun. It's our most popular show on Bonfire Sports is Game Day After Dark. So before and after every Bombers game, head to Bonfire Sports on YouTube, bonfiresports.ca, and then Zach Schnitzer, the Schnitz. He's a fan. I'm a reporter. We balance each other out. We get into CFL football top to bottom and a lot on the Winnipeg Blue Bombers on Bonfire midweek, Wednesdays, 7:30 on Bonfire Sports. Tons of fun, Hustler, and always appreciate you allowing me to come on and talk a little football. We'll talk a little basketball this year, too.
You bet. I actually saw Schnitz at the Taste of the Bombers event.
You mentioned that, yeah.
Which was unreal. I mean, that has to be an annual event.
How was Jeff Gray?
Jeff Gray was awesome. And in fact, the funny thing was, so he did some sort of special corn dog that he had made the recipe for. And they had made it. And I happened to be with Gray and a bunch of the Bombers when he tried it for the first time to see what they did with his creation. I thought it was excellent. Everything there was so good. And I'll tell you what, it was about 29 degrees. The sun was shining. Half the people there were in their blue and gold. And I'm like, we are just about ready to get back to this stadium. And it's been too long ever since the end of the Grey Cup. I can tell you the players are happy the training camp is over. The fans are as well. And I have a feeling there'll be a lot of excitement for the Friday preseason game this week, but you fast forward another week and it's going to be a hell of a way to get things going against Bo Levi Mitchell and those Hamilton Tiger Cats.
Yeah, it's going to be tons of fun. The Riders are in town this weekend at the Madhouse on Matheson. You know I love calling that spot what it is. It's an absolute madhouse with this winning franchise, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. And yeah, Ticats to kick off the regular season, that rivalry, it's going to be awesome to see Bo Levi Mitchell in black and yellow against the blue and gold. It's going to be fun, but buckle up. 2023 is going to be an awesome season in the CFL, and hope you can come along with us for the ride.
DB, we'll see you later on this week. Good luck with everything, and we'll look forward to the first Bonfire midweek coming up, and then the first home game, post-game on Bonfire after Friday's game. Take it easy, dude.
You too, man. Cheers.
All right, there is our guy, Darrin Bauming. We've still got a few things to get to. I do want to give a big shout out to our friends at Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge, a perfect getaway for any Manitoba business or for individuals if you're just looking for a world-class fishing destination where you can be on the water in less than 2 hours from the city of Winnipeg. And as great as the fishing is, the Aikens experience and the Aikens hospitality even more world-class. Find out more online at aikenslake.com. And you can also fire our friend Paterson a tweet if you'd like, or a DM at Aikens Lake for more information about booking information and what availability they have for the remainder of the year. Shout out to the Gold Eyes, who finished up a very successful homestand. They came back 2-4 from the road. They head back out on the road at 8-7. After going 6-3, and I believe winning 2 of 3 in all 3 of their series. Was at the game on Friday night, another beautiful night at the ballpark. And I'm putting together quite a collection of food picks from the ballpark. We're just trying to work our way through some of the other spots that we haven't been to. We'll do a feature on that sometime soon. Fish are back a week tomorrow, next Tuesday. But if you're looking for a great night to maybe target going, next Saturday is Métis night, but it'll also be fireworks. So that's a 6 p.m. game on Saturday, June 10th, the next fireworks night. Go to goldeyes.com for all the information on upcoming promos. And, of course, you can get your tickets there as well. We will be getting to our horse picks in just a minute, but got to give a shout out to Emmanuel Grillo, who was back in the winner's circle in the PGA Tour yesterday. And what a bizarre way. He won it in a playoff after putting his drive on 18 into a creek, which then took the ball about 500 meters away. He had to play where it entered the creek. He double bogeyed, but he prevailed in the playoff as a 100-1 long shot. And I believe Harold Varner III won the live event at the Trump course in D.C. I, like most of you, never watched a second of it, but it is apparently existing. So I would give a shout out to HV3, my guy. Of course, our golf reports brought to you by Breezy Bend, an incredible long-term home for your family. If you would like more information on getting onto the waiting list and making Breezy your permanent golfing home, and give them a call at 895-7205 or find out more online at breezybend.ca. All right, let's get to the Coolbet Lines. And we'll do that. I did pop by Little Brown Jug on the weekend. Had to give shout outs to everybody there for, winning basically all the awards, I think, at the Prairie Brew Awards. I had a generic lager at Little Brown Jug, and I had a couple of the Gold Eyes games. Love the fact that it is available there as well. You certainly won't go hard for choices when you're hitting up the beer man at the Gold Eye game. Of course, generic lager is just launched. It's available now at the tap room downtown. It's also available at your favorite beer store. Impressively standard in the best way, light and clean to taste with a mellow flavor and a crisp finish. Now Manitoba can support local without having to move away from the domestic taste they've come to expect with the light beer, and some great new generic lager merch as well available. You can check that at littlebrownjug.ca. or check it out in person along with those new grilled cheese sandwiches they have down at the tap room and brewery. All right, let's get to the Coolbet Lines, and we'll get Remo back in here. Remo, we got a game tonight. And I, like most people, did not see much of Game 5 on Saturday night. I mean, we were down watching the hoops at the first Sea Bears game. Following it, I kind of thought that we'd be talking about the Stanley Cup matchup, Vegas versus Florida, but not so fast. Dallas got it done. Now Jamie Benn is back, and they're at home. That being said, I think I'm still leaning towards Vegas at plus 113 to get the win tonight. Dallas at minus 132.
Yeah, we were not paying attention to this. We were fully locked in on Sea Bears on Saturday, and Friday was so weird. It was one of the first nights in a while without any hockey on. And this game was on Saturday in Vegas, and I agree. I've kind of, since it was 3-0, you're like, okay, well, Vegas is going to go to the final. It's going to be Florida-Vegas. Not so fast. Dallas figuring it out after that meltdown for Jamie Benn. Cross-checked Mark Stone in the neck. There was that video going around from on the bench of Jamie Benn's workouts. Did you see that one? Where it's... Wait. Let me show you this. This was
practicing, let me guess, some strength exercises for when you fall on a guy with your stick.
Yeah. This was the video. Jamie Benn getting ready for Game 6 on social media. Everyone, I think got 1 million views. This is Jamie Benn getting ready. And if you're not on the podcast, it's a guy taking a bar and just pushing down on a medicine ball. I don't know, on a bouncy
one of those
ball.
Exercise balls.
On an exercise ball. It got us this video. I don't know how many views it has. I think it's got like 1 million. Anyways, he's back, and I don't know. Maybe take Vegas as underdogs. I think that might be the better value. But we want to see a Game 7, so I'll be on Dallas.
Does that video have more or less views than the Winnipeg Sports Talk TikTok of our live reaction to the first Sea Bears win?
Oh, man. Well, credit to you, Huss, for being in position behind the scorer's table of videoing the win and giving your immediate on-the-court reaction. And our TikTok exploded on Saturday night. I think that video's got 30,000 views on TikTok. Got a ton more followers, and was on our Instagram as well. So Sports Talk WPG on both platforms. And a lot of people don't really know about the Sea Bears, and they're being exposed to it from maybe us talking about it. I know Alec came up to me at the game, said, I heard you guys talking about it. I got to show up. And people in the comments, the one comment that I keep seeing us is really grinding me. People saying, Sea Bears? What's that? I'm like, oh, it's, I get. I mean, I know you don't really hear that term. You say, but it's polar bear. Polar bear. There's no polar bears in Winnipeg. I'm like, guys, are there lakes in Los Angeles? Is there jazz in Utah? Are there lions in BC? Bulls in Chicago? Tigers in Detroit? It's just a name, okay? Like,
well, we're the capital of Manitoba. Manitoba is known for the polar bears. For crying out loud, they brought the new mascot down from the rafters.
Yeah.
And his name is Churchill.
Love it.
Or Mr. Sea Bear,
That's funny.
if you will.
I like that. So I don't know why. I don't know. That was my little rant for the day. Just people in our comments.
I will admit, when I first heard they were going to be called the Sea Bears, I was like, what?
Oh,
but then
how
when
could
I
you
found
not?
out a polar bear is a sea bear, then it
Then
made
you're
a lot
in.
of sense. And I'll tell you what, no one at the game gave a damn about that. They were all in on it. The merch looked amazing. There was tons of people with the big chains, the big gold chain with the big logo on it. The hats were fire, and they've got tons of great T-shirts, hoodies, and whatnot. So I wouldn't be surprised if you haven't already. You're going to be seeing a lot more of that around town now that the team is here.
The one thing about the name is very easy to chant. Let's go Sea Bears. You heard a lot of Let's Go Sea Bears chants. Very easy. And I agree with you. I think when you first hear it, like, what is that? What is a sea bear? Like, oh, it's a polar bear. And then, yeah, that makes sense. That's a decent name. But there's people in our comments, not representative of the entire population, that think like, is there a raptor in Toronto? I don't think so, Hustler. I don't think there's raptors in Toronto, so I don't know like why people are getting so bent about the name.
Yeah, get over it, folks. The Sea Bears are here. It was a hell of a lot of fun, and their next home game is
June 12.
Yeah, not
I got
next
it
week,
circled.
the following week. So we'll see you back there. If you haven't made a plan yet to get out to a game, do it, and hopefully we'll have another great crowd. Like, I know that was the home opener. It was a big deal, and everyone wanted to get out for the first game. But I think the Sea Bears, here's my take right now, my prediction. I think the Sea Bears will break that previous CEBL record for attendance, 4,400, multiple times this season. So I think we'll probably be like looking around 5,000 a game for sure, if not more.
Yeah, I'm curious how this is gonna go. I agree. I loved how it was at the arena. I think it gave it that big game feel. The production was
Game
was
changer
excellent.
having it. I said that to Asper after the game. I said the best thing that ever happened.
Whoa,
was
you
guys
talked to
figured
the
out a way
owner?
to making it.
Whoa, look at this, Mr. Big Shot here,
You
sitting
talked to me.
at the scores table. Number one, I showed that picture of you. I don't know if you didn't acknowledge it on the air, but there you were. And talking to the owner, exciting. But yeah, I agree.
I did acknowledge it. I told you I was sitting next to that
Oh, yeah.
that old dude.
Sorry,
that was
that
the head
was-
ref that was giving me all the information, dropping the knowledge on me
That was
throughout the game.
2 hours ago. I already forgot about it. But yeah, I mean, I'm pumped for it, and I think a lot of people there were pumped too. And we've talked so much. Like, there's so many more Canadian players going to NBA basketball, but also leagues around. Like, why can't we have our own league here? And you can watch it on TSN, which I think is huge too. All the games on TSN Plus, but also national games called by Chuck Swirsky on actual broadcast television.
Yeah, we'll have to get Morreale on because I know he was there. They've got 2 more opening games out west over the course of these next couple days. And if TSN, or I guess the league, is smart, I don't know how they decide where they're going to be broadcasting games from, but Winnipeg should be at the top of that list because that was an incredible advertisement for the league, what happened here in the city on Saturday night. Speaking of basketball, the one thing that I did catch after the game was the end of Game 6 in the Heat Celtics game. Did you see that, Remis?
I saw a video of people at a wedding celebrating because they thought the Heat won, but the Celtics actually won.
There was so many. I saw one. DJ Khaled, big Miami guy. I'm a big DJ Khaled fan. We the best,
right? Is that guy?
Yeah, we the best. DJ Khaled, big Heat guy. He was watching it. He thought that they won, and then, like so many people, it took about 15 seconds. Went, wait a second. Number 9 on the Celtics did tip that in at the buzzer, 0.1 seconds away from going to the NBA Finals. But no, the Celtics get the tip in at the buzzer, win 104-103. And we got Game 7 tonight. The Celtics on the verge of being the first team in NBA history of 140 teams, I believe, to fall down 3-0 and to come back and win. They're massive favorites tonight, minus 303. The Heat plus 250. I do think this game will be close, though. I'm going to lean on the Heat plus 7.5 in this one. And I am taking Vegas plus 113 to win. That being said, my picks last week were historically bad. So bad, in fact, I think I mushed Dustin Nielsen's computer into breaking. And that's why we didn't have a lock shop today. So I'm hoping with the new week, I really just want to get through round 3 of both the hockey and the basketball and get on to the finals. Because I, for some reason, have been cursed in round 3. So if you do, I'm going to let you know my picks just so you can fade them if you want. If you want to go against me, take Boston minus 7.5 and take the Dallas Stars tonight. There you go. By the way, while you're at Coolbet, we touched on this a little bit with Darrin Bauming. All the CFL futures are up right now. Win totals, receiving props, who's going to win the divisions, the league leaders, some awards as well. Some rushing props. Brady Oliveira, over under 950 yards for the season. Think he can do that. You can jump on it. They've got a few other guys. So plenty of CFL options. If you want to do any of those season-long bets, it's all over there at Coolbet. Use the promo code WST if you're signing up. 100% bonus up to $200 on your first deposit over at Coolbet. And it's Monday, Remo. You know what that means? Assiniboia Downs. We're back at the track tonight and tomorrow. Now, again, short week for racing. We've got Monday and Tuesday this week, and then as of next week, it'll be the regular Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday schedule throughout the remainder of the summer, all the way to Labor Day.
I'm fired up. So I got my picks ready. The short week last week, racing. There was no racing Wednesday. So we only really had one day with picks on the show. I was like kind of lost Wednesday, Thursday, Friday night without action. I love turning it on YouTube. When I'm watching baseball or hockey, you can have it up on my phone, wait for my race to go and watch the winners roll in. Well, I did have one winner last week. We'll see if I can get a couple tonight.
Yeah, you had a nice start. Okay, well, listen, why don't you start off as I just complete mine?
I'm going a bit different. Usually I don't do the triactor boxes, but I went for 2 of them tonight and 1 exacta box. So race 2, I like 2 and 5 in an exacta box. That's first and second in any order. Horse 2, Drop a Caribou. And horse 5, Gucci Bling. I had to go with Gucci Bling. Race 4, I am in on a triactor box, 1, 6, and 7, first, second, third, any order. Milan, Ohio. Anna Kozana, and this is one of my favorite ones, has big energy. Those are my 3. Okay, I like race 6. This is just a straight win. Horse 2, Impressive Sense, picking that one to win. And race 7, a nice triactor box, 1, 6, 7. So first, second, third, any order. Red Sparrow. Oh, I don't remember picking red. This is not the right. Sorry. This is race 4. Race 4. My bad. I can't read. No, I said that one. 1, 6, 7. Sorry, race 6, 2 to 4. Oh, and then I picked 2 to win. Okay. I did 2, 3, and 4. Impressive Sense, Bear Me a Monin, and Shinbro. I did 1, 2, and 3. I don't mean to do that. I'm deleting that one. Okay, race 5. It's actually, I can't read my list. I'm just going to move on. You go.
All right.
I'm going to edit that out. Race 2, 3, 4. House Limit, Del Vecchio, Stay Happy. I'm reading on a small screen, 5 and 6. My wife tells me I need glasses all the time.
Very small font. You got to own it.
I need glasses.
Glasses. Just jump on it. I never had glasses ever. Now I'm not wearing glasses.
I'm nervous.
All right.
I don't want to get my eyes checked.
I'm going race 2, number 5, Gucci Bling. Great name for a horse. And I think Gucci Bling's actually the favorite. So we'll sprinkle on Gucci Bling. In race number 3, we are going with number 5, which is Kim's Texas Bling.
Oh, Kim, that's a good horse.
Along with number 1, That's a Lot of Bling. So last year, if you recall, I would always bet on the horses that was with something. Obviously, I would imagine there's a connection between these horses. So 5-1-1-5 exactor box. Kim's Texas Bling, and that's a lot of bling in race 3. In race 4, I'm going to bet number 5, Sassy's Stormin' to win. And then I'll do an exactor box with Sassy Stormin' and Big Energy. And then in race number 5, I'm going to bet, this is another name that I really like, number 6, Boss Factor, or The Boss Factor. So I've got that to win, and I'll probably sprinkle on the final race. I've saved $6, so I'll do a $1 triactor wheel. Let's go with number 9, Living Sky, Misgiving, and Fingertip. 249. There we go. That is our triactor for the last one. Fingertips 12-1, Misgivings 2-1, Living Sky is 6-1. $6 bet. Lock it in. Folks, if you haven't already, get out to the track. Post time, 7:30 p.m. tonight and tomorrow. Then, as I said, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday next week. And you can always call the dining room, see if they've got any spot for that incredible buffet where you can sit, chow down for to your heart's delight, and bet from the comfort of your own table. Assiniboia Downs is back. The Ponies at the Post tonight at 7:30 p.m. I think I'm actually going to go tomorrow night, though, Reem. Tonight will be a night to get 2 TVs, probably at a local watering hole, and watch both Dallas and Vegas go at it and see what happens in this crazy Heat-Celtic series.
Yeah, that would be crazy. History. Always great when you see a team come back from 3-0, and Dallas is going to try to force a Game 7 on their way back, and I don't see why they couldn't do it with Jake Ottinger net if he's playing like he is able to. So a great night for playoff sports, and these third rounds have been rough. I think I picked every game wrong in this, in the hockey for sure. Every game I picked wrong.
As I said, I just need to get through this series and get back to normal. I mean, I've had a great run. I had an incredible football season last year. I did very well in hockey. And then we've gotten to this round 3. And, like, I haven't been able to hit anything. And it's spreading to baseball. I needed to cool down. I basically took a self-imposed timeout on the account for the 2 days. But I'm back tonight for Game 6 in the hockey and Game 7 in the hoops. Vegas and the Heat plus 7.5. Feel free to fade me. I will not take it personally whatsoever. It would have been a good move for the last week. All right. Great show today. And again, if you do want to watch the races on Assiniboia Downs, have you watched the YouTube yet, Reem?
Assiniboia Downs?
Of the tracks? Have you seen the new technology
Oh, they
got?
got the GPS thing. Yeah, that shows the horse numbers. Yeah, it's way easier to see. It's crazy.
It is so cool. Anyways, check out Curtain Stretch. Will get on at 6:45 tonight. And yeah, it is totally different now watching him. You know, before you were sort of hoping you knew. Now they've got that bit, and basically it's live bit. Oh, and hey, one more thing, Reem. Yeah, before we go, we got to give a big thanks to our buddy Pat Kanuga from CBC, who did a really, really nice piece on the emergence of Winnipeg digital sports media. He came down to the year-ender bender put on by our pals Kenny and Rennie, and talked to Sean, talked to myself, talked to Dave Manouk, and put together a real nice piece that aired, I guess, today earlier on Marcy Marcuse's show on the CBC.
Yeah, this was really cool. Being mentioned on CBC, and you know, Pat's been a listener. I saw him at our when did we do? We did a live at Little Brown Jug. I met him there and saw him at the Kenny and Rennie event, but he interviewed you guys, and here's the tagline. CBC's Pat Kanuga dips into the world of local sports podcasting and the emerging media that's connecting sports fans in the digital space. So that's some nice words about this show, Kenny and Rennie, Illegal Curve. It is on, I tweeted the story out, just an audio. It's a 5 minute, 40-second audio story. So it's on our podcast, or on our Twitter, Facebook, YouTube community. I put it in there. So check it out. It was a great listen, and pretty cool what's happening here in the digital space.
No doubt about it. Oh, and hey, here before we go, yeah, Doug, we'll do updates. Remis is up. He had a big first day, so I am playing a little bit of catch up. Hopefully that crazy triactor wheel I did in the last race can come through today and give me a big win. But Remo, I need to give a shout out to Gregory, Liverpool, the OG, caller number 1 from the first ever H&L show, not on Freak when we were on OB. Gregory was at the game on Saturday. Of course he was. Great seats, by the way, Greg. I think Greg jumped on early and got some beauties. And we've got a great pick. Do you have that pick of me and Greg? There it is. The man himself. Greg, we need to get you a Sea Bears hat, though. I mean, like, you and Stephen A. with your love of the Dallas Cowboys. Come on. It's a Winnipeg game. It would be like me wearing a Chiefs hat to a Bomber game or something like that. But Greg was looking good. And shout out to everyone else that came by and said hi. Got a chance to meet Chris, a longtime listener, along with his family. And it was great to hear, Remo, that there were a few people that heard us sort of talking about it throughout the week and decided to make it out and check out the game for the first time.
Yeah, a couple people came up to me and you during the game, and see Schickster in chat. I saw him there, said hi. So it was a great community of people who are fans of basketball and Winnipeg sports supporting, and definitely a historic event for a CEBL. Most attended game, 7,303 people there, and return of pro basketball here is great. So I'm looking forward to more CEBL action.
Oh, listen, and Adam Douglas is saying, hey, you guys got to show the Assiniboia River tubing guy tomorrow.
Where was that?
We will at some point. Well, he was cruising down the Assiniboine, which is basically right by my spot, and then you eventually get to the Forks, and then you're into the Red. But you all laugh about this, that this guy was a nut. I will be that guy later on this summer. When I was in Qatar, and I think I told you this off air, Remo, but like throughout the pandemic, just with all the time not going out and hanging out, I got a little obsessed with the river and people that were canoeing or having boats and things like that, and spent a lot of time. But, the like high-end inflatable boats were basically impossible to get because of the run on them during the pandemic. Well, while I was in Qatar, and the time change was so nuts that it's the middle of the night here in Winnipeg, so I was, online or whatever, I bought one of those boats. It is still in a box. The water's too high right now to get down to the dock by me, but I will recreate that video that guy did. And I don't know, we're going to have to find a way to stick a car like way up the Red somewhere, and we'll jump in and we'll just tube or whatever, float all the way down there. And there actually is room on this thing for a motor as well. So I think I'll look into that, but I'll need to be talking to someone that knows what they're talking about to get on that. But yeah, big advocate of getting out onto the river. So many people live in the city and they're never there. They have no idea what is out there. It will change the way you look at Winnipeg if you can spend an afternoon running around the Assiniboine or the Red.
If you want to go on a boat on the river, I think that's cool. But I think when you're like getting skin on water contact for an extended period of time, is that okay? I don't know.
It's totally okay. I've showed you those videos of those psycho kids that do the backflips into the water. Yeah. I mean, they are somewhat nuts. I mean, but they've been doing it long enough that obviously nothing's happened to them, because the last few years they tie this rope to one of the trees out here and literally do backflips and whatnot into the river, and they seem to have perished. There are people that swim in the river. Don't drink the water, though. Definitely don't drink the water.
Yeah, I'm not going in, but I'd go on a boat. Like you're the one who talks about the water taxi all the time, going to the Gold Eyes games on it. I've actually never done that, but it does sound fun.
That's great. Oh, Gregory's chimed in. That is my basketball game attire, Hustler. I don't want to go full tilt Spike Lee. You should be full tilt. You should be the Sea Bears Spike Lee, Greg. Getting after everyone and all in on every game. I know you will be. Anyways, we will have some fun, and hopefully the water taxi is going to be ready to go, at least down by the Assiniboine. We just need the water to go down a little bit more. But yes, there will be some content on that. If you missed our post from the Sea Bears, though, definitely check it out. Give you a good shot of the winning basket and then a little recap right afterwards. There's Teddy Buckets. What a big game. He was Teddy Bricks for about 2 minutes after it went to the target score, but they ended up getting it done as the big guy, Chad Posthumus, put it back and got the win. Listen, enjoy the games tonight, everyone. Dallas, Vegas, and then, of course, the Heat and Celtics. Tomorrow on the program, we'll have much more on the Bombers, the Winnipeg Jets, Stanley Cup Final, if it is set, or we'll be getting ready for a Game 7 between Vegas and the Dallas Stars. Thanks to Bauming. Thanks to Jeff Hamilton. A big thanks to Bill Lindsay for getting us the latest on the Florida Panthers. Have a great night. Enjoy the weather, and we'll see you tomorrow on Winnipeg Sports Talk.
Oh, my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.